Chapter 35. Wood Leaf Soil School. Thank you so much for yesterday, Rin. A little boy wearing goggles was bewildered as he thanked the little girl beside him. That's what I should do. With her hands behind her back, Rin's face was filled with a youthful and lively smile. But, bordered soil, next time you have to come earlier. Don't be like yesterday where you couldn't even make it for the registration. Bordered soil nodded like a chick pecking at rice, and then racked his brain to think of a topic. Rin, I arrived late yesterday. Can you tell me about the other students? Of course. Rin approached bordered soil and whispered to him, "This is Suzuki-san, that's Iwai-san." However, Rin obviously didn't notice that a certain pervert wasn't listening to her at all, and just stared at her side profile with a rippling face. Rin's blushing face is so beautiful. Bordered soil thought so infatuatedly, and then as if struck by lightning, Rin blushed when she saw another boy. Bordered soil hurriedly returned to his senses. "Rin, you spoke too fast, I didn't hear you clearly. Who was the last student?" "It was Kakashi." Looking in a certain direction, Rin shyly lowered her head. Sure enough, Rin blushed when she saw that white-haired brat. Bordered soil instantly pulled a long face, and said sourly, "Other than being a little more handsome than me, he doesn't seem to be anything special." "That's not it." Rin gently shook her finger. "Yesterday when we were registering, a teacher said that Kakashi's talent is no less than that of Garashi-senpai. Garashi-senpai, I seem to have heard that before." Bordered soil whispered, and just as he was about to ask more, there was a sudden commotion from the other side. "You brat, how dare you bump into me? Are you looking down on us seniors?" "I'm not." Then you're saying that I deliberately bumped into you?" "That's not what I meant." "Then you deliberately bumped into me. Hurry up and pay up, otherwise, don't blame me for teaching you the dignity of a senior." Bordered soil looked towards the source of the voice and saw a few people dressed like delinquents surrounding a student with a watermelon hairstyle, scolding him. Lin exclaimed softly, "It's Metke." "Oh no, those people are the tyrants of the 4th grade. They love to bully the newcomers." "What? Watermelon Head is in danger?" When Bordered Soil heard that his classmate had been surrounded, he immediately rushed over with his blood boiling. "Bordered Soil, wait!" Lin hurriedly shouted and followed after him. "There's actually a newcomer standing up for someone else. Could it be that it's another monster like that Shimizu Garashi?" Thinking back to last year's tragic experience, the delinquents' expressions all turned ugly. "On the first day, there's a classmate who I don't know who helped me. Dad was right, this is hot-blooded youth." Metke shouted with tears flowing down his face, giving a thumbs up to Bordered Soil. Bordered Soil's body shuddered. Why does he feel that something is wrong with this watermelon head? Seeing the other's fiery eyes, Bordered Soil hurriedly turned his gaze to the delinquents. "You guys, don't bully him." On the other side, several delinquents were whispering to each other. "I heard that there's a monster newcomer named Hatake Kakashi among this year's freshmen. Could it be him?" "Really? But why do I feel that this kid is stupid?" "You can't say that, isn't that idiot Uchiha Shunin very strong?" "It makes sense, let's test him first." After the discussion, one of the delinquents stood up and said, "Hatake Kakashi, don't, interrupting you guys, I'm Kakashi." The white-haired boy who was calmly watching the show suddenly said, "Wait, then he is, you bastards, remember this uncle's name is Bordered Soil Uchiha." Bordered Soil felt seriously insulted and shouted loudly, "Uchiha? Bordered Soil Uchiha?" The delinquents looked at each other, then turned around with a grin. "Well, I'll let you see the power of an Uchiha." Bordered Soil Uchiha secretly glanced at Rin, roared and rushed up, then typed GG. In just one round, Bordered Soil Uchiha was trampled under his feet. "What a weak strength, such a weak strength came to save me, it's really touching." On the side, Metke cried loudly. Bordered Soil Uchiha was almost angered to death by him. "Bastard, I just accidentally fell down." Everyone was speechless, the corners of their mouths twitched. How can you fall directly under someone's feet? "Don't be afraid, I'll save you." After one round, Metke and bordered soil Uchiha were trampled side by side under his feet. I thought this year's freshmen were very powerful, this is it? If you don't have the strength, don't learn from others. The surrounding freshmen were angry, but they didn't dare to refute. Many people secretly looked at Kakashi, expecting the strongest newcomer in the teacher's mouth to stand up for them. Unfortunately, the other party didn't even have the interest to move his feet. At this moment, a slightly deep voice came from the distance. Kento, Ryota, you're bullying your classmates again. Hearing this voice, the group of delinquents gnashed their teeth and shouted, Uchiha Shunin, why do you always pester us? Because I want to be a good person now. Damn, we'll fight you. The group of delinquents rushed up. The group of delinquents typed GG. Strong strength. Kakashi, who had been indifferent before, had a flash of surprise in his eyes. Bordered Soil shouted cheerfully, that's Cousin Shonyen, he's very powerful, right? Metke nodded seriously, then asked doubtfully, are you all from the Uchiha clan? Why are you so weak? Bordered Soil felt as if his lungs were about to explode. He glared at Metke for a long time before saying, I'm still young. Can't I? After doing good deeds every day, Shonyen suddenly looked at Garashi's position. I heard that among the freshmen, there is someone with the same talent as Garashi, but now it seems that you are much worse than him. Kakashi frowned. How would you know if we haven't fought? Shonyen shook his head and said sincerely, no, the result has already been decided. Because your tolerance is not as good as his. At some point, the Bordered Soil came over and asked in confusion, tolerance? Shonyen boasted seriously, if it's Garashi, he will definitely stand up. He only sees himself, but Garashi sees the world. Although Kakashi was a little unhappy in his heart, he was too lazy to refute. Obito, on the other hand, was beaming with joy. Then my tolerance is also greater than his? Shonyen hesitated for a moment, no, you just don't think about it. Seeing Bordered Soil's face full of resentment, Lin took the initiative to come to his rescue. Shonyen-senpai, thank you for helping us. Shonyen's eyes were calm. Don't worry, doing good deeds before challenging him can also strengthen my own beliefs. After seeing Shonyen's strength and suddenly hearing this news, Metke excitedly ran over and asked, Shonyen-senpai, who are you going to challenge? Shonyen took a deep breath, it's the one who guided me out of my mistakes, Shimizu Garashi. Chapter 36. Wow, it's Garashi, senpai. On the side, Rin's eyes sparkled like little stars as she cheered. Seeing Rin's reaction was more serious than when she saw Kakashi, Bordered Soil instantly realized the crisis. Danger. Mike Guy asked excitedly, is it a senior from the upper grade? Rin shook her head, no, Garashi, senpai is a second-year senior. Bordered Soil curled his lips, what, so he's only 1 year older than us. You're not a medical ninja, of course you don't understand Garashi, senpai's power. Rin clasped her hands in front of her chest and said with admiration, senpai is Tsunade-sama's disciple, and it only took him a year to be able to perform some small operations in the hospital. Bordered Soil scratched his head, is he very powerful? Why do I feel like he can do it too? Metke looked at Shunien in confusion, senpai, the person you want to challenge is a medical ninja? Even if Shunien had already accepted it, when he was suddenly asked this question, his body trembled, and immediately there was a trace of grief in his eyes. Medical ninjas are the most annoying. Everyone around looked strange, why do they feel that Shunien, senpai's voice is a little bit sobbing, this must be an illusion. Metke was surprised, it's only a year, and that senpai already has the same level of strength as Shunien, senpai? Shunien calmed down his restless heart and once again returned to his calm state. To be precise, it's 2 months, he only used 2 months to surpass my 3 years of effort. Bordered Soil shouted in disbelief, how is it possible, cousin Shunien, you're a genius who could awaken your Sharingan at the age of 8. My Sharingan was awakened in the battle with him. Shunien's face was full of sadness, and his eyes were filled with reminiscence. It can even be said that if I didn't awaken my Sharingan, I wouldn't even have the ability to resist. Hearing his words, Bordered Soil and the others couldn't help but widen their eyes. Senior Shonyen was so strong, but he wasn't a match for Senior Garashi. This was especially true for Bordered Soil. He had often heard the adults in the clan talking about how powerful cousin Shonyen was, but he didn't expect his dreams to be shattered on the first day. Even Kakashi, who pretended to be indifferent but was actually listening to the gossip, was surprised. He heard from his father that the Uchiha were extremely proud. To be able to make the proud Uchiha say such words. Is it Shimizu Garashi? I'm starting to get interested in this boring school life. Metkei, who yearned for youth and hot-bloodedness, looked at Shonyen with shining eyes. Senior, can we also watch the battle? Of course, no problem. Shonyen shuddered under this fervent gaze and quickly averted his gaze. Also, you can also attend the school festival on the way. Lin asked curiously, school festival? What's that? Shonyen organized his words. It's a place where people of all grades form clubs according to their hobbies, and then invite classmates or people from the village to participate. In short, it's a place for you to meet friends and show yourself. Wow, it sounds so interesting. Lin clapped her hands happily, but soon she had a new doubt. But why haven't I heard of it before? Because this was proposed by Garashi before the last semester's holiday. Shonyen said, patting Bordered Soil's shoulder, you're lucky, you're just in time for the first school festival. Metkai's eyes lit up as he listened. Great, I'm going to form the Youth and Hot-Bloodedness Club. Is there anyone who wants to join? However, as long as he looked at them, everyone around him quickly turned their heads away as if avoiding a snake or a scorpion. Seeing Metkai's unwilling look, Bordered Soil quickly changed the topic. Will there really be people participating in this school festival? After all, that Garashi Sr. was just a newcomer last year. Shonyen, who had already become Garashi's boaster, said in the most determined tone, if it's him, there definitely won't be a problem. Without waiting for them to ask, Shonyen took the initiative to explain, this is because everyone in our grade is very convinced by him. Speaking of which, for Garashi to have such a reputation, it's partly because of me. I know, it must be because cousin Shonyen used to be the most powerful person in school. Bordered Soil made the connection, his face full of indignation. After that Shimizu Garashi defeated you, he took your position. If he's powerful, that might be true. Shonyen had a strange look in his eyes, but if we're talking about status, does being the most hated person in school count? Huh? Bordered Soil tilted his head, and maliciously acted cute. What do you mean? Of course it's because I used to be a bully among bullies. Shonyen didn't feel embarrassed at all, and frankly said with a smile, those bastards who embarrassed you just now were actually my little brothers. Everyone around exclaimed in unison, what? Bordered Soil also stuttered, what the hell is going on? It seems that the clan didn't mention how much of a bastard I used to be. That's right, they only care about the awakening of the Sharingan. Shonyen laughed self-deprecatingly, then put his hands on Bordered Soil's shoulders, and sternly said, I used to be too extreme, and didn't understand the true meaning of love. I thought that relying on violence to make everyone respect Uchiha was love for my father, so I didn't need to do anything to get the love of my classmates. It was Garashi who woke me up and made me come out of the illusion. So cheesy. Cousin Shonyen, aren't you embarrassed at all? Bordered Soil felt goosebumps all over his body, and just as he was thinking about how to escape the claws of Shonyen, the corner of his eyes suddenly floated to the side of Rin. Wait. If I can be as thick-skinned as cousin Shonyen, can I say in front of Rin that I love? He. Thinking of this, Bordered Soil's eyes became very firm. Cousin Shonyen, I understand. Shonyen nodded with relief, but also a little sad. Sometimes, when a mistake has been made, even if you do more, there is no way to undo it, so don't be a bastard like me in the future. Bordered Soil nodded as if he didn't understand, but Metkei patted him on the shoulder. It's okay Sunyan-san, Bordered Soil is so weak, he can't be a bad guy. Bordered Soil staggered, and almost fell directly to the ground. After barely stabilizing his body, he looked at Metkei with resentful eyes. Although this guy is speaking for him, he can't be happy at all. Bordered Soil has such a reliable companion, it seems that he won't be like me. Shonyen sighed in his heart, then waved and said, let's go. the school festival will be held in the grove behind the school. Chapter 37. Are there any students who want to join our gourmet club? We have the Akimichi clan's top barbecue students here. Friends who like insects, come here. Our president is the Aburame clan's insect hatching expert. Along the way, there were new and interesting things everywhere. While the freshmen were dazzled, the small grudges caused by the previous episode disappeared in their hearts and began to integrate into the big group. I also want to set up a service club to help everyone. Bordered Soil was inspired by this idea, and suddenly asked, what kind of club did Garashi-senpai set up? Shunyan pointed in a direction and helplessly said, see for yourself. Obito looked in the direction that Shunyan was pointing at and was surprised to find a club surrounded by dozens of girls. The club clearly wrote, Psychology Club. At this moment, Bordered Soil admitted that he was jealous. Why are there so many girls there? Do all girls like this kind of boring club? No, they don't like it. Then why are they still crowded there? Shunyan patted him on the shoulder and said in a heavy tone, because Garashi is handsome. What? Hearing this answer, Bordered Soil almost doubted his life. Is this even possible? After rushing over and jumping up to take a look, Bordered Soil had to admit that the other party does seem to be a little more handsome than him. If the white-haired Kakashi is the cold moonlight, then Garashi-senpai is the warm sunshine. Bah, why would I want to see the two of them? Fortunately, Rin is not so shallow. Bordered Soil thought with relief, and then a form was stuffed into his hand. Bordered Soil looked up and saw Rin standing in front of him with a red face. Bordered Soil, let's join the psychology club and support Garashi-senpai. At this moment, Bordered Soil seemed to hear the sound of something breaking. On the other side, Shunyan was struggling to squeeze into the crowd. Excuse me, please let me through. Can I go in? I want to go in. Get out of my way. I am the super-villain Uchiha Shunyan. Shunyan's voice gradually became irritable, but it was useless in front of the group of fanatical girls. Not only did she fail to squeeze in, but she was also thrown out. Am I really a campus bully? Shunyan was at a loss, and suddenly thought, if I accidentally won last year, would it be gone by now? Thinking of this, Shunyan instinctively trembled, and as if she made some kind of determination, she cleared her throat and shouted, Garashi's house key seems to fall on the ground. Where? Where is it? The crowd dispersed in an instant. Taking advantage of the time when these little girls were searching in all directions, Shunyan quickly seized the opportunity to jump in. Phew, I'm finally here. Opposite him, Shushi smiled. What's wrong? Are you going to come looking for me to regain the Uchiha's lost honor? Shunyan's to me twos is. In the battle 3 months ago, didn't you tell me that we, the Uchiha, are the clan that understands love the most, but this kind of love is easy to be extreme. Just like before, I didn't understand anything, but I was paranoid that everything I did was for the honor of the Uchiha. That's why I said to strengthen the ideological construction. Garashi secretly sighed. In his view, this is not unique to the Uchiha clan, but the common problem of the entire ninja class. In a world where 11 or 12 years old can go to the battlefield, the growth of the mind is naturally abnormal. What's even more terrible is that the so-called thinkers of this world like to think alone, without communicating with others, and then they feel that they have mastered the truth of the world. You know, even in Garashi's previous life, the birth of every idea must undergo countless collisions and carvings of inspiration. No one is omniscient and omnipotent, and no one is always right. The narrowness of vision inevitably leads to the limitation of thinking. After seeing the withering of flowers and plants, they think that they have mastered the mystery of heaven and earth. This is naturally very ridiculous. However, when these people have great power in their hands, the ridiculous becomes terrible. Therefore, the people in power put forward such a set of rhetoric, that ninjas are just tools, and tools should not have their own thoughts. But it is precisely because of this that in turn, the exchange of ideas is limited. Seeing that Garashi was lost in thought and seemed to agree with his opinion, Shunyan's tone became more and more excited. But there are too many people in the Uchiha clan who are as extreme as I used to be. I can't change them, I can only slowly influence them through the promotion of my status. So, I have to become stronger. Shunyan understood this very well. He can be enlightened by Garashi. Isn't it also based on the foundation that Garashi defeated him? If he won at that time, who would listen to the preaching of a loser? Since you have such a request, then okay. Garashi naturally won't refuse the other party's request to be beaten. After beating someone, he can also receive the other party's gratitude. It is indeed a pleasant thing. However, it is better to set the time after today's school festival. Why? Can't I do it now? But now, you may have to deal with the classmates behind you. Shunyan's body stiffened and slowly turned around. Behind him was a large group of fierce-looking girls, rubbing their fists and rubbing their palms while looking at him. Wait, I am a school bully. Give me face, don't hit my face. Then, for a long time, the screams echoed in the forest. Phew, finally finished distributing the flyers. Asma sat next to Garashi and complained, such a boring club, why are there so many people participating? Garashi smiled helplessly, isn't it too rude to say that the club is boring in front of me, the founder? Huh, what is our relationship? Asma laughed twice and put his arm around Garashi's shoulder. Speaking of which, I thought you would set up a medical club. Actually, from the beginning, I also planned to do so. Garashi said inside, but Shuemu's inferiority complex and Shunyan's extremism made me change my mind. If there is a place for them to talk, perhaps many things will be different. Seeing Garashi's mood was somewhat low, Asma suddenly clapped his hands and changed the topic. By the way, Garashi, I heard that a lot of Yunnan caravans came to the village. I haven't seen people from other villages. After the school festival is over, should we go and take a look? Maybe there will be a special product of the Thunder Country. Yunnan? Garashi's eyes slightly fluctuated, and then immediately joked, the special product of the Thunder Country seems to be a bar? If Naruto-sama knew about it, his blood pressure would probably rise again. Humph. Is he allowed to peek at women bathing? I'm not allowed to. Ahem. Chapter 38. In the evening, the novelty brought by the school festival has gradually dissipated, but everyone still lingered in the grove, unwilling to leave. Hee, although I have forgiven Uchiha Shunyan now, but that doesn't prevent me from watching him get beaten up. Let's bet, let's guess how long Uchiha Shunyan can last in Garashi's hands this time. I bet 5 shurikens that he can last for 5 minutes. I bet 1 explosive tag that he can last for 3 minutes. On the side, Bordered Soil said angrily, damn it, how can these bastards do this? Shunyan himself didn't care, I'm not Garashi's opponent anyway. After saying that, Shunyan suddenly reacted, wait, you didn't also bet, did you? Hearing this, Bordered Soil nodded shyly. Shunyan patted Bordered Soil's shoulder, good brother, but don't do this next time. At this time, Metke came over with an angry face, I bet my youth hot-blooded club's quota, but they didn't accept it. Bordered Soil squinted his eyes, your quota, no one wants it. By the way, Bordered Soil, I just saw you bet that Sunyan-san can only last for 1 minute, isn't it too risky? Huh? What's wrong with your eyes? Why are you blinking so fast? Are you also going to awaken your Sharingan? Why should I know this idiot? Bordered Soil's heart was filled with grief and indignation, inexplicably felt that the pressure on his shoulders seemed to have suddenly become a lot heavier. He stiffly turned his head and just happened to meet his cousin's kind eyes. It's over. Why do I feel that this guy has a bit of an aura of victory? Garashi didn't know what kind of tragedy happened just now. Seeing Shunyan's heavy footsteps, for a moment he muttered in his heart. Garashi, this time I will definitely last for 5. Shunyan's ruthless words were halfway through, but then he thought about it. If he can't take back the words he said, wouldn't it be more embarrassing? Thinking of this, his momentum instantly weakened. 5.5 minutes. Really? I'm looking forward to it. After forming the seal of opposition, Xiao Nian immediately jumped back. At the same time, his hands quickly formed a seal. Fire release, grand fireball. Garashi's expression did not change as he punched out, directly dissipating the blazing fireball. Sparks flew everywhere, and Xiao Nian also seized the opportunity to hide in the forest. Compared to the battles in the school, the forest had all sorts of trees and shrubs as cover. When facing a straightforward physical technique, the geographical advantage naturally had to be taken advantage of. Garashi was not surprised. He just stood quietly in the middle of the forest. Suddenly, a few sparks appeared and shot directly behind Garashi. At the same time, Xiao Nian also took the initiative to jump out and follow behind the sparks. It seemed that she wanted to cooperate with these sparks to launch a round of joint attacks. Garashi noticed the movement and turned around, but this time he did not break it with a punch like before. Instead, he grabbed a few shurikens from the tool bag and shot them at the sparks. The surrounding people had no time to wonder why Garashi would do such a stupid thing as using shurikens to shoot down the flames. They heard a few ding-ding sounds, and the shurikens hidden in the sparks were shot to the ground. The flames that were originally attached to the shurikens also dissipated. How is this possible? How did you see through it? Xiao Nian shouted in disbelief. This was a tactic he had thought for a long time to come up with. The sound of a simple flame and a flame with a shuriken hidden in it are different. Shushi's voice was calm, as if nothing could make him panic. That works? Xiao Nian's head was full of question marks, and then he suddenly realized, wait, I've already lost the initiative. If I continue to rush forward, I'll have to fight Garashi one-on-one in physical technique? Thinking of this, Xiao Nian slammed on the brakes, threw a shuriken at Garashi, and hurriedly fled to the side of the jungle. Phew, temporarily safe. Hearing the ding-ding sounds behind him, Xiao Nian, who was hiding behind a big tree, rejoiced. Then, accompanied by an explosion, a white arm came from the big tree behind him and stopped right next to his ear. Gulp. Looking sideways, Xiao Nian swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. Then, with a creak sound, the big tree collapsed with a loud bang. For the freshmen who had just entered the school, the fierce battle in front of them naturally caused them to cry out in alarm. Too powerful, Garashi, senpai is really too powerful. Rather than saying he's powerful, it's better to say he's ferocious. His body is obviously about the same size as us, but it actually contains such a terrible power. Bordered Soil, who had two panda eyes, was also shocked, so strong. Cousin Xiao Nian is not his opponent at all. Kakashi's small face was dignified, his eyesight, hearing, and control of power are all unexpectedly strong. Could it be that the person father mentioned who is more powerful than me is him? In the field, Xiao Nian was constantly fleeing in the forest, accompanied by a roar, and from time to time, a big tree was broken in half. In just a few dozen seconds, Xiao Nian was already surrounded by danger. Regarding this, Xiao Nian was also very desperate. His biggest confidence this time was the previous sword in the fire. He wanted to use Garashi's inertial thinking to catch him off guard. But who knew, Garashi did not play by the rules at all. Calm down, there's still a chance. Xiao Nian took a deep breath. While fleeing, he observed the surrounding terrain, looking for an opportunity. Can these accumulated trees be used? If I can ignite them all at once. Wait, what is that? While Xiao Nian was thinking calmly, the corner of his eyes suddenly saw the transparent thin line connecting the forest. Or rather, it was a net. This is a net connected by chakra lines? It seems that you have already discovered it, then, this battle will stop here. As soon as the voice fell, Xiao Nian was tied in the air. Although the posture of being tied seemed a bit shameful, Xiao Nian didn't care so much. Looking at Garashi below, he asked incredulously, "You can still control chakra lines while fighting with me?" Garashi smiled and put down Xiao Nian, maybe because using taijutsu doesn't take much of my energy. Xiao Nian reluctantly accepted this answer. Yes, taijutsu is just waving your fist, as long as you have hands. At the same time, the little gamblers began to cry. Too fast, only 50 seconds and he lost. It shouldn't be, Uchiha Xiao Nian lasted 2 minutes last time. Xiao Nian's small face was red. He didn't want to, but fighting with Garashi is a bad thing. Any mistake will be infinitely magnified. Rin was right, cousin Xiao Nian really can. Xiao Nian was embarrassed. Hearing the cheers, his face instantly became ferocious. On the other side, Asma came up. Garashi, get ready to go. Garashi responded, but after a few steps, he was stopped by a white-haired kid. Chapter 39. Asma looked unhappy. Newcomer, what do you want? However, Kakashi completely ignored his existence and just looked at Garashi. Let me introduce myself. My name is Hataki Kakashi. Garashi smiled gently. My name is Shimizu Garashi. Nice to meet you. Kakashi nodded. Okay, let's start now. Everyone around looked puzzled. Did they cross over? Why did it feel like there was a conversation missing in the middle? Even Garashi was stunned for a moment and immediately chuckled. It turned out that he didn't know how to communicate at all. Of course, some geniuses have their own pride. Asma on the side also understood, and asked with a cold face, you mean, you want to teach Garashi? Kakashi looked puzzled. Didn't he say he wanted to teach me? Asma was startled. For a moment he couldn't tell whether this guy was arrogant or really stupid. Garashi smiled helplessly. I'm happy to accept your advice, but I have an appointment with a friend today, so let's wait for the next time. Is that so? I see. Kakashi nodded thoughtfully, and said with a little arrogance, I will try to end the battle within a minute. Asma's eyes were full of sympathy. This child is really stupid. As for the reaction of the surrounding people, hey, I didn't expect this white-haired brat to be so self-aware. No, this guy saw Uchiha Shiniki's performance and still thinks he can hold on for a minute. He's obviously arrogant. Oh, so that's the case. Hey, are all newcomers this year so arrogant? Kakashi was depressed. He's not the kind of person who likes to show off. The reason why he challenged Uchiha Shiniki this time, in addition to his fighting spirit being ignited, was more because he was not convinced by his father's evaluation. But in the mouth of these bastards, how could he lose the battle within a minute? What's even more abominable is that he lost the battle within a minute. Is he being arrogant? Perhaps, this is what Jiraiya-sama mentioned in Legend of the Counterattack. The contempt of the people around him will become the source of growth for the protagonist. Kakashi recalled the scene in the book where the person at the end of the line made a comeback, and his originally cold heart became restless. Since you asked so, then I have to agree. Garashi chuckled, not caring about the other party's rudeness. Seeing this situation, the little gambler dogs became excited again. A wool, open, bordered soil came to Rin's side. Rin, what do you think I should bet this time? Before Rin had time to speak, Shiniki Shiniki, Shu Shiniki, Shiniki Shiniki, Shiniki Shiniki, Shiniki Shiniki Shiniki. What? What do you mean? Bordered soil asked in confusion. Shionyan sighed and looked at Garashi with eyes full of sympathy. Let's put it this way. Physical arts is actually Garashi's weakest area. Bordered soil was startled. He pointed at the horrible scene in the forest and exclaimed, you call this the weakest? In the forest, Garashi gently brushed the fallen leaves off his shoulders. Kakashi, are you ready? Kakashi assumed an offensive posture. Come on. The moment his voice fell, the fallen leaves in the air began to dance, fluttering about, attracting Kakashi's attention. Garashi slowly walked over and brushed past Kakashi. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. As an apology, let me give you a spring in return. After saying that, Shushi walked outside, while Kakashi stood there motionless, as if he was in a trance. Seeing this, Bordered Soil woke up from his stupor and asked, what's going on? Is Kakashi asleep? It's an illusion. Shionyan's voice was full of admiration and admiration. This is Garashi's true strength. Too powerful. Bordered Soil was absent-minded for a moment, but immediately became inexplicably excited. Lin is too good. She must have deliberately pulled me into the psychology club to attract the attention of the senior, and then she can ask him for advice on illusions. Just as Bordered Soil was once again immersed in his beautiful fantasy, there was suddenly a burst of cheers around him. Wow! Garashi-kun is too elegant, too gentle. Too much, can't that newcomer last a little longer? That's right, I wanted to enjoy Garashi-kun's battle for a while longer. It's so painful, I seem to have a headache when I can't see Garashi. Oh, I seem to be sick too. No, I have to go to the psychology club tomorrow to see the senior. Damn it, I was the one who got sick first. Hearing these voices of admiration, Bordered Soil's small face was bitter. It seems to be a bit difficult to attract the attention of the senior. Woodleaf Bazaar. This is the Thunder Tooth Iron from the Cloud Plateau of the Land of Lightning. It has been baptized by thunder and lightning all year round. It has a very good thunder property chakra conductivity. Usually, it would cost at least 100,000 taels to buy, but now we have a big discount. The top of the Land of Lightning is awesome, really awesome. This is our Yunnan special wine, 4-bucket goblet. Rakage Sama said it was good after drinking it. Rakage said it was good after drinking it? Asma stood in front of a stall, his eyes eager to try. He stretched his neck and sniffed inside. Go away, little brats, don't come here and make trouble. The stall owner obviously didn't think that two children would have any ability to buy, so he waved his hand in disgust. Humph. Even if you give it to me, I don't want it. Asma's Tsundra mentality flared up. He pretended to turn his head and walked away. Garashi followed behind him, his eyes from time to time swept over the surrounding crowd. Hey, so boring. Asma's interest didn't last long, and soon he lost interest. By the way, Garashi, I see you have been looking around since just now. Do you want to buy something? It's okay, it's my treat. For Asma's rich behavior, Garashi just gently shook his head. What I am interested in is not their goods, but their eyes. Asma's body trembled. He lowered his voice and asked, Garashi, you want to dig out their eyes? Garashi couldn't help but laugh. I don't think so. Then you just said, what I mean is, the information that their eyes convey. Asma suddenly turned around and stared at an adult's eyes for a long time until the other party noticed. Then he excitedly turned back and said, I saw it, there's eye wax. He must have gotten up in the morning and didn't wash his face. Garashi was a little dumbfounded. Well, this is indeed a message from the eyes, but what I really care about is the true emotions that their eyes can convey. Without waiting for Asma to speak, Garashi continued, when I was still in the hospital, I found that many adults like to wear masks on their faces. Asma wondered, masks, is there? The disguise to hide one's true thoughts is a mask. I understand, just like the old man obviously likes to watch women bathe, but he refuses to go directly to the bathhouse, he hides at home to peep, ahem. Chapter 40. In order to prevent Asma from saying any more shocking words, Garashi quickly continued the previous topic. However, only the eyes will not be covered by the mask. Asma nodded thoughtfully, then stared straight at Garashi. Garashi, guess what I'm thinking now? Garashi looked back calmly, which made Asma feel weak. You didn't think of anything before, but now, you should be warning yourself not to think of anything. Asuma's eyes widened. That's amazing. Could this be mind reading? Garashi shook his head gently. It's not that magical, I'm just too familiar with your personality. If it's a stranger, even if I use the other person's eyes, expressions, and body movements, I can only analyze some details at most. That's still very amazing. Asma rubbed his hands and said flatteringly, Garashi, can you teach me this? Of course, after all, I was going to mention it in the Psychology Society. Huh? I thought your Psychology Society only needed to listen. Since it's a Psychology Society, I have to understand everyone's true thoughts first. Garashi smiled slightly. He did not mind letting psychology take root in this world. On one hand, the characteristics of psychology itself were destined to be predestined. There were many people who were interested, but there were very few who were willing to go deeper. On the other hand, what he was going to talk about was mainly microexpression analysis, and this was not only useless for people who could control their microexpressions well, but it could also deliberately let others interpret the true thoughts that they wanted to convey. After listening to Garashi's explanation, Asma felt that he was ready to graduate. Psychological analysis was not something that could be done with eyes. Who should I practice with? Asma muttered to himself, then his eyes lit up, and he swaggered in a certain direction. You little rascal, why are you here again? Seeing Asuma standing in front of the booth with his head held high, the vendor who was selling wine before felt depressed. Asuma crossed his arms and decided to use the method that Garashi had taught him. You're selling fake wine. The stall owner was shocked at first, then he said angrily, you little brat, are you looking for a beating? Huh? He didn't look elsewhere, which meant that he wasn't guilty. Oh no, I failed the first time. Although Asuma was depressed, he did not care about the other party's attitude. He was a second-generation actor. What was wrong with being arrogant and despotic? Seeing that the other party was about to lose his temper, Garashi stepped forward. Even though the wine isn't fake, it should have been mixed many times, right? The boss said confidently, you kids don't understand. Wine is supposed to be blended. But the taste of the wine is so light, are you sure it's not? Even Reikage said it's bad? The stall owner's expression froze. Asuma, who was beside him, moved closer to Garashi and shouted, look to the side. He's really guilty. Hearing him shouting like this, the stall owner became angry and said, what do you know? Reikage-sama is. No, why should I explain it to a kid like you? Seeing that the other party was about to go berserk, Garashi calmly pointed to the side. Now standing in front of you is the son of Naruto, the traitor, the top genius of the ninja school, and the vice president of the Psychology Society. The stall owner's raised fist stopped in the air, and his face became very interesting. Sorry to disturb you. Asuma accepted Shushi's greeting with a clear conscience. Shushi, do you have any more? He asked, still unsatisfied. Do you want me to say bounty units? Garashi's eyes were strange, but he still shook his head. I think Soul Hunter is very good. I'm going to start hunting those who fall into darkness. Asuma felt good about himself and looked back and forth in the market, looking for the next target. At this moment, Garashi suddenly stopped in front of a shop. Garashi, what are you doing there? Asuma tilted his head and suddenly his eyes lit up. Garashi, wait, don't say it first, let me analyze it. Garashi was very pleased with Asuma's performance. If he waited for Asuma to pass this period, it would be really difficult for him. Well, Garashi, when you just stopped, your eyes were looking at the sign in front of this shop, and your eyebrows were frowning very secretly, indicating that you think there is something wrong with the sign in front of this shop. With that, Asuma also looked over. It turned out to be this shop. I noticed it when I passed by before. The owner wrote the price on the sign outside in advance, and the price is very high. It should be to prevent people like us who can't afford to go in and disturb them. With that, Asuma looked at Garashi. So, is there a problem? Garashi pondered for a moment. At first, I thought so too, but when I passed by for the second time, I found something not quite right. What's wrong? This shop sells the specialties of the Country of Thunder. If the wood leaf merchants bought it from the Country of Thunder, they should wait for these merchants to leave before selling it. So, this shop is very likely to be rented or bought by a merchant from the Country of Thunder. Asuma seemed to be enlightened and had a flash of inspiration. The surrounding Yunnan merchants directly set up stalls, only this shop is rented or bought. If he doesn't plan to return to Yunnan, then the most important thing to do now is to buy goods and stock them. But not only did he not do that, but he also set the price very high, as if he is driving the customers out. This means that this business is very likely to be his mask. Garashi nodded. Although I can't be sure, it's very likely. Humph, no matter whether he has a problem or not, let me go in and test it out. Wait, the previous method may not work. If he really has a problem, his psychological quality is definitely not comparable to the previous one. Then what should we do? Of course, let them show their flaws. So, this time, we need Asuma to act as yourself. After a moment of discussion, accompanied by an extremely arrogant voice, the two actors officially appeared. Boss. Here. The boss ran out happily. When he saw the two little ones standing at the door, he was stunned, but quickly recovered. Little ones, what are you doing here? Well, this boss's strength is indeed very strong. Asma, who had already identified the other party as a bad guy, secretly evaluated the other party's acting skills. Of course we are here to buy things. Don't tell me we are here to watch you take a bath. Ahem. The boss looked puzzled, but still said in a gentle tone, "Little one, my things here are very expensive, you should go somewhere else to play." Asma didn't speak, just raised his head and looked at him with his nose. At this time, Garashi stood up. "Now standing in front of you is the son of Naruto, the raider, the future successor of the Sarutobi clan, and a strong candidate for the second-grade class leader of the ninja school." Chapter 41. Naruto's son. The shop owner's pupils contracted violently as he pondered the authenticity of the other party's words. He pretended to be honored and said, "So you're the son of Lord Naruto. I apologize for my earlier rudeness. Although this guy was a bit strange just now, it's normal for him to be shocked after hearing such a resounding name like mine. Let's act according to the original plan." Asuma nodded contentedly as a sound came out of his nostrils. Naruto's son is like this? Although he was confused, he did not dare to probe further. He took the initiative to explain himself. "I'm a merchant from the Thunder Country, Heia-e. Because it's my first time in Woodleaf, I'm not sure who you are." "I'm sorry. I don't care where you're from." Asma waved his hand impatiently. "I'm here for the second-grade class monitor election. I plan to buy some fresh beef from you to bribe my classmates." Even a 5 or 6-year-old kid knows how to bribe his classmates. Has Woodleaf become so corrupt? Heia-e despised him in his heart, but he still asked cheerfully, "How much beef do you plan to buy?" "No hurry, let me take a look first." Asma acted like he was an expert. Heia-e laughed in his heart and followed behind him as if he was watching a show. However, 10 minutes passed, half an hour passed, an hour passed. Heia-e's mentality was breaking down. That arrogant brat was still picking and choosing. Damn it, there's still an operation at night. Heia-e screamed in his heart. He took a deep breath and reluctantly squeezed out a happy smile. "Maybe Hokage-sama is already preparing dinner. Why don't you come back tomorrow to pick?" Asma rolled his eyes at him. "Idiot, I've already chosen the class monitor tomorrow. What's the use of this beef?" Heia-e roared in his heart. "How would I know when you primary school students will choose the class monitor?" Finally, after dawdling for another half an hour, Asma patted a piece of beef with a look of disgust. "I'll take this one." Heia-e almost burst into tears. Finally, he could send this annoying little demon away. Seemingly worried that Asma would go back on his word, Heia-e hurriedly said, "I'll wrap it up for you." "Wait, I'm not done yet. Are all you businessmen so impatient?" Heia-e froze. I was too impatient." Asma nodded in satisfaction and said in an old-fashioned manner, "Give me 5 kilograms of lean meat. There can't be a single bit of fat in it. Do you understand?" Heia-e heaved a sigh of relief. After a series of sharp knife skills, Heia-e happily wrapped up the meat. "Then I'm not done yet. I still need 5 kilograms of fatty meat. I can't have any lean meat. Do you understand?" Heia-e was so angry that he almost pulled out his sword and slashed him. "The world is so beautiful, yet I'm so irritable. This isn't good." Taking a deep breath, Heia-e forced a smile and said, "Okay, I'll cut it now." Hearing these bitter words, even Garashi, who was watching from the side, was almost moved. Another round of torment. Seeing that Moonlight had climbed onto the chopping board, Heia-e cried silently in his heart. Finally, seeing Heia-e wrap up the fatty meat and send it over, Asma looked at the other party's numb eyes and almost couldn't bear to continue. Then by the way, give me 5 kilograms of bones. I just remembered that Inuzuka's dog likes to eat bones the most. Oh. Heia-e responded mechanically, like a salted fish that had lost its dream. However, the moment he lowered his head to scrape the bones, the murderous intent in his eyes skyrocketed, and the hand holding the machete also burst out with blue veins. Have I already been exposed? No, if I've really been exposed, it won't be just two little brats. I have to endure it. At least, I can't be the one to expose myself. Endure. What followed was another long period of silence. Finally, the bones were picked. Two little guests, do you have any other requests? Heiai bent down, looking very flattering, but in fact, like a tiger staring at its prey, he was ready to attack. But at this moment, Asuma's soft muttering sounded in front of him. You don't even get angry, what a bummer. Didn't you say that Yunnan people have the most fiery temper? Heiai was stunned, he felt something was different. Before he could think of anything, Asuma continued. Humph. The second Naruto died in the hands of Yunnan. This hatred, I must avenge it. Oh, so it's because of this. Heiai only felt that his palms were wet with sweat. Hearing this, he hurriedly explained, our Yunnan was also a victim of the coup, even the second Raikage was killed by the two brothers. Humph. But both of them are still Yunnan people. With that, Asuma walked out with an unhappy face. You're lucky this time, I will come again next time. He didn't have enough cash, so he quickly left. Although Asuma didn't pay, and didn't take away the beef, Heiai didn't dare to make any more trouble. Phew, it's finally over. Heiai rubbed his wrist, looking at the table full of beef, his mouth twitched. I hate little devils the most, especially Wood Leaf's little devils. After walking out of the shop for some distance, Asuma whispered excitedly. There is definitely something wrong with that guy. Garashi nodded. And it's a big problem. Then we'll leave it to the adults. Asuma's excited look froze, and then he immediately smiled. This kind of uncertain thing, it's better not to bother others, right? Garashi showed a hint of surprise. You want to follow them alone? Nope, I still have you. No, it's too dangerous. It won't be dangerous. Asuma was serious for once. Our Wood Leaf is protected by a barrier. If there is a powerful ninja from the outside world, the old man will receive the news immediately, so at most, only the escort ninjas of the caravan will participate in the operation. That's also very dangerous, after all, we are not even ninjas. Ninjas and ninjas can't be lumped together. Asuma said disdainfully. It's too easy for geniuses like us to deal with ordinary ninjas, and Yunnan certainly won't be willing to let geniuses from their village participate in such a dangerous task. What if they have a Chunin? If it's a Chunin, even if we can't beat them, we should be able to protect ourselves. Moreover, this is Wood Leaf, if they find out that they can't catch us in the first place, they will definitely give up. Seeing that Garashi was still hesitating, Asuma said again. If they do it tonight, then it's too late for us to inform them now. Hearing this, Garashi nodded with a dignified face. Okay, but if they don't act tonight, then we must inform the village tomorrow. Seeing that Garashi was convinced by himself, Asuma excitedly waved his fist. Great, the anti-spy team is ready to act. Garashi sighed softly, as if he was sorry for his nonsense, but his eyes flashed with a strange light. After all, this time we are going to contact sensitive people, so I can only trouble you, Asuma, to take the blame for me. P.S. Some readers may think that the name is too strange, but Samui in Yunnan is the Japanese pronunciation, Omoi is the Japanese pronunciation, I'll just pick a fast Japanese pronunciation. Chapter 42. Under the hazy night sky, a few sneaky figures gathered together. Heiai, what's going on over there? Why are there people at your place so late at night? That's right, we have to change our contact location. Hearing the complaints of his companions, Heiai's nose was sour, and he almost burst into tears. After being tortured by the two brats for a long time, he almost changed from a ninja to a chef. After the two brats left, he found the secret signal left by his companions at the back door of the shop and rushed to the new contact location without stopping. He didn't even have time to eat. Was it easy for him? Trying to calm down, Heiai explained. Sorry, I didn't expect to be pestered by two troublesome brats. Entangled? The other few people were shocked and hurriedly asked, You've been discovered? How is that possible? Hayai waved his hand. If I was exposed, a lot of woodleaf umbu should have jumped out and caught us. What are you doing? Don't talk nonsense. One of them released his right hand from Hayai's mouth and glared at him. I used to have a companion, and every time he said something similar, it would come true. Hayai's mouth twitched, and he whispered. How is this possible? I can't bear to say it. That's enough. The leader stopped and then asked. What the hell is going on? There are two brats from Woodleaf Umbu who want to deliberately provoke me, so that they will attract the patrol ninjas. Seeing the other people's faces changed, Hayai quickly explained. Don't get me wrong, those two brats don't know my identity. They just want to provoke conflict and avenge Nidame Naruto. Hearing this, the others also laughed. I didn't expect that the higher-ups of Woodleaf Umbu are all cowards. Among those brats, there are a few hardliners. Hayai also laughed. Huh, one of them claimed to be the son of Sandame Naruto, huh? Why aren't you laughing? Seeing the smiles on the other people's faces suddenly disappear, Hayai was puzzled at first, but he soon woke up and regretted it. I understand now. I should have caught the kid directly. Anyway, the kid's value is obviously higher than the target, idiot. The leader lowered his voice and scolded, haven't you heard that Sandame Naruto likes to peep with binoculars? Hayai's eyes widened. Peeping? The ninja next to him replied, Baiwei-sama said that Sandame Naruto of Woodleaf is a very controlling person, so he specially developed this technique for monitoring. Hayai was shocked. Then what should we do? Fortunately, you idiot didn't make a move. Otherwise, we would all be finished. The leader of the ninjas suppressed his anger and asked, hurry up and recall for me. Did you reveal any flaws before? I don't think so. The more Hayai thought about it, the less confident he felt. Don't think so? At this time, the ninja next to him asked, wait, the son of Naruto didn't even make it for dinner. Wouldn't Sandame Naruto send someone to find him? The leader of the ninjas pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, you mentioned that there were two Woodleaf kids. Who is the other one? Hayai thought about it. The kid had no sense of existence except for his good looks. I don't know, except for his good looks, however, the leader of the ninjas was overjoyed. I know, that kid must be Shimizu Garashi that I inquired about in the past few days. I heard that Sandame Naruto is very optimistic about him. Maybe Sandame Naruto found them together with the binoculars, so he was relieved and didn't look at them. Is that so? Hayai was at a loss. Obviously, he was a kid with nothing except for his good looks. Has Woodleaf now fallen to choosing people based on their good looks? Captain, what should we do now? The leader of the ninjas pondered for a moment and exhaled heavily. In any case, our risk of exposure has greatly increased, so we must take action tonight. Because of fear of being discovered, Garashi and Hayai followed from a very far distance. The disadvantage is that there is no way to monitor the other party's conversation. Why haven't they taken action yet? Don't tell me he's asleep. Asuma yawned and whispered, Shushi, why don't we get a little closer? Garashi shook his head slightly. The strength of these ninjas may not be stronger than us, but their experience in carrying out missions is definitely above us. If we get closer, the risk of being discovered is too great. Okay. Asuma sighed helplessly and then clenched his fist. When we catch these bastards, I must let them know the consequences of making me unable to sleep. They are coming out. What is coming out? They are finally going to take action. Garashi nodded and whispered. Get ready to follow. They are far away from the enemy. Although it is safe, they may lose the target if they are not careful. Therefore, the two did not dare to have the slightest neglect. Seeing the enemy move, they quickly followed. After tracking for a while, Asuma exclaimed softly. Hey, that direction? Garashi pretended not to know and asked. Is there a problem? There are no people in that direction, only a very fierce big sister lives there. Asuma said and asked. Garashi, do you know the country of whirlpools? Garashi jumped and followed while nodding and replied. The country of whirlpools was originally a friendly ally of Woodleaf, but it was destroyed because of a war a few years ago. Well, this big sister is a survivor of the country of whirlpools. Asma said the truth he knew. In order to protect the orphans of the country of whirlpools, the old man let the big sister settle down in the village. But because of outsiders, she doesn't seem to have a good relationship with the other people in the village. But, why do these Yunin ninjas want to catch her? Hearing that, Shushi couldn't help but laugh in his heart. According to the memory of his previous life, the fact that Uzumaki Shinakushina became the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki was only known by Sandaime and a few elders. Other than that, even the Sannin didn't know. This also led to a very awkward situation. If they send someone to monitor, the spies of other villages will definitely find something wrong. But if they don't send someone to monitor, it is impossible for them to keep an eye on a little girl all the time. In the end, they can only choose to believe in Woodleaf's security guards. On the other side, Yunin didn't want to catch the Kyuubi at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent these rotten fish. They were really only interested in the other side's special chakra, but who knew that they would catch such a big fish? P.S. According to the setting of the Book of Matrix, this incident happened 27 years before the end of the Fourth World War. According to the timeline problem I mentioned at the beginning, it happened in the year 41 of Woodleaf. So, my outline originally set the incident at the end of the previous year, but I was hot-headed a few days ago, and inexplicably wrote it to the second year. Now, I can only set it to the period between the end of the year 41 and the beginning of the year 42. Here I am brainless, and the outline is set to make mistakes, so everyone can scold me, xxxxxxx. There is also a point that people often think that this plot happened when Minato was in school, because the previous part of the plot happened when he was in school. But in fact, when Minato saved the beauty, both of them were wearing Woodleaf forehead protectors and had already graduated. Chapter 43. While talking, the group of Yunin ninjas rushed into Uzumaki Shinakushina's house. Garashi looked dignified. Damn it, we can't catch up. Huh, don't worry. Asma gloated, those Yunin ninjas are in trouble. I heard from the old man that the big sister's strength is super. Before he finished his words, several ninjas in black walked out with a red-haired girl. Asma? Seeing the strange look in Shushi's eyes, Asuma quickly explained, I understand now. This must be the red-haired big sister's deliberate disguise. She wants to follow this clue and catch all the spies. Garashi slightly shook his head. If he guessed correctly, Uzumaki Shinakushina's strength should be suppressed by Kyuubi. After all, Uzumaki Mito was too old when the seal was transferred, and although Sandaime-sama and the others are strong, their attainments in Fuinjutsu are not as good as Uzumaki clan. The most important thing is that the seal in Uzumaki Shinakushina's body is the complete Kyuubi, which makes the strength of the seal in Uzumaki Shinakushina's body not even comparable to the strength of the future Naruto. In order to prevent Kyuubi from breaking the seal, Uzumaki Shinakushina didn't dare to use chakra, so she didn't dare to resist when she was caught by these ninjas. It can be said that these Yunin ninjas are on the verge of death without knowing it. So, in this world, good people are easy to be bullied. Garashi sighed, and Asma on the side also felt that something was wrong. The big sister fell several times along the way, and was violently dragged on the ground by the Yunin. Even if they want to act, they don't have to work so hard, right? Not good, Garashi, that big sister may have been caught, let's go save her now. Wait, don't be impulsive. Don't forget, they have a hostage now. Thinking of this, Asma suddenly panicked. Then what should we do? Damn it, if I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have tested them. I would have just captured them. Even if I had captured the wrong person, they would at most have scolded me. Don't blame yourself too much. After all, it involves two countries. Without evidence, the higher-ups won't directly arrest people. But it's too late to go back now. Garashi said calmly, don't worry, there's still a way. Hearing Garashi's words, Asma calmed down. Tell me, Garashi, what should we do? Garashi narrowed his eyes. Let's continue to follow them. When they reach the border of Woodleaf, they're only one step away from success. That should be when they're the most relaxed. Then, we'll cooperate with them and take back the hostages. Asma couldn't help but retort, but what if they don't relax? Garashi said helplessly, in that case, I can only try to use genjutsu to attack their minds. Although I'm very confident in my genjutsu, the enemy is a ninja after all. I'm not sure if it will work. Be sure to succeed. With that, Asma said depressingly, I haven't gone back yet. Can't the old man hurry up and peep at me? Damn it, he must want to take advantage of my absence to peep at others. Unlike the worried Asma, Garashi didn't even have the slightest fluctuation in his eyes from beginning to end. Everything was within his expectations. Even the other protagonist in this good show who hasn't appeared yet was the same. Things like favorability, it's the same for two people, so don't let me down, Namikaze Minato-senpai. Compared to Namikaze Minato, in fact, Garashi valued Uzumaki Shinakushina more. However, Namikaze Minato also had the potential to develop into an excellent tool. Therefore, Shushi naturally did not want to miss out on such an opportunity to farm two items at once. If Namikaze Minato makes a move, I don't have to spend much effort, I just have to find the right time to gain experience. But what if he doesn't arrive in time as expected? Garashi didn't think that the river of fate would be like a pool of stagnant water without the slightest ripple. Too much belief in the future he knew would only put himself in a passive and unfavorable situation. Therefore, even if he was involved in this known future, he was still fully prepared. Before deliberately guiding Asma, he had already figured out the other party's intentions and strength in advance. After all, I never said that an ordinary chunin is beyond my scope of dealing with. As a genius, isn't it reasonable to have a breakthrough in the battle? Under the cover of the night, the two followed closely behind Yunin Ninja. Asma picked up a handful of soft red hair from the ground with a complicated expression. Garashi, are these people really ninjas? The big sister lost her hair all the way, and it was a dazzling red hair that was as eye-catching as fire in the dark, but the group of ninjas didn't even notice it. At first, he was worried that this was Yunin Ninja deliberately luring them to appear, but now it seems that this group of ninjas seems to be really weak. Shushi, on the other hand, remained silent. He finally understood why Cloud Village was so fond of stirring up trouble, but every time they did so, their harvest was so small, they were addicted to food. After discovering this, Asma asked eagerly, Garashi, should we get closer? Garashi was about to answer, but the chakra wave from the distance made him lose his mind for a moment. It was the chakra that he attached to Uzumaki Shinakushina's hair. Although he is not a specialized perceptive ninja, in this case, if someone picks up the hair on the ground, he can still perceive the chakra wave. Namikaze Minato? It seems that I have to hurry up and act. Otherwise, when he arrives, I will have nothing to do here. Thinking of this, Garashi no longer hesitated. Of course, we have to get closer, and take the opportunity to launch a surprise attack. Asma's eyes widened. But didn't you say before that we have to wait for them to get close to the border of Woodleaf Village? I overlooked an important detail before. These cloud ninjas are likely to have arranged people outside the barrier in advance. If a battle breaks out at the border, it may be noticed by the cloud ninjas outside the barrier. Once they desperately rush into the barrier, it will be too late even if the village elders receive the news. Ha ha ha. 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 So, we'd better choose a place where they are relatively close to the border, but the battle won't be noticed by the people outside the barrier. I understand. Asma suddenly nodded and praised. Garashi, you are so thoughtful. Well, wait for me to make the hand seals, and once I'm done, you immediately grab the big sister. Understood. Chapter 44. As time passed, the border gradually appeared, and the Yunin ninjas who had been on tenterhooks finally breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, it was really dangerous tonight. Yeah. But fortunately, it was a close call. When we get back to the village, I'll get drunk for a whole day and night. Seeing this, Hayai also tried to justify himself. I told you that it was impossible to be exposed. Look, there's no one chasing after us now, right? The ninja who covered his mouth said angrily, I told you not to say such things. But before he could finish his words, his eyes lost their light. Before Shinakushina, who was still in a daze, could react, she was grabbed by Asma and thrown out. Garashi took advantage of this gap and threw his shuriken, cutting the rope that tied Shinakushina's hands with great precision. Someone really came to save me. Shinakushina fell to the ground, and the sudden pain woke her up. Although she had been trying to save herself before, in fact, she did not think that anyone would come to save her because of the estrangement in her heart. But she did not expect that her fantasy would become reality. She raised her head and saw 2 little boys. 2 children saved me. At this time, Yunin ninjas also woke up one after another. I was hit by an illusion. After noticing what happened around them, the leader of the ninjas felt a chill in his heart. Fortunately, they saved her first. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know how I died this time. Is it really that effective? Hayai, who woke up, was at a loss. After seeing the 2 people who attacked him, he shouted in disbelief, It's you 2 brats. Hearing his shout, the others quickly calmed down and looked around, and then, they were ecstatic. Are there only these 2 brats? Where's Woodleaf's Umbu? Shinakushina also reacted and asked in a shaky voice, Only the 2 of you? But soon, she mocked herself. Well, only kids like you wouldn't mind a disgusting outsider like me. How can a kind person be hated? Garashi, who was giving Shinakushina temporary treatment, said softly. Kind? Shinakushina was stunned. It was the first time she had heard someone praise her like that. Garashi nodded. When I was treating you, big sister, I discovered that there was a very terrifying power in your body. If it wasn't for suppressing this power, you should have been able to defeat them. In order to prevent the people around him from being threatened, he would rather be hurt. Such a person must be very kind. Shinakushina sniffled and almost burst into tears. Ever since she was young, she had experienced the destruction of her home, the bullying of her classmates, and the discrimination of others. Even when she was brought to Woodleaf, she was only used as a vessel. This was the first time she had received such recognition. Just at this moment, she made up her mind, this brother of mine is mine. Interrupting your thoughts, the pure and clean high fever mushroom is not some old SP. Seeing that Garashi and their mission target were chatting as if there was no one else around, the group of Yunin ninjas only felt that they were seriously insulted. New hatred plus old hatred. Heiai rubbed his wrist and grinned, You 2 annoying brats, you finally fell into my hands. Shinakushina woke up and stood in front of Garashi. Didn't you want to catch me? I cannot resist, but you have to let them go. Heiai hurriedly said, Captain, that brat is the son of Sandame Naruto. Anyway, we are now at the border, we don't have to worry about Woodleaf's revenge. Hearing what he said, Shinakushina was also surprised. He is the son of the old man Sarutobi? The leader of the ninja was a bit confused. If they caught the son of Sandame Naruto, wouldn't it directly trigger the Third Shinobi World War? He is just a small chunin, how can he make such a decision that may change the world? After taking a few deep breaths, Yunin ninja finally influenced him, let's do it. Hearing this, the rest of the Yunin ninjas also shouted excitedly, this is the son of Sandame Naruto, his value is much higher than the Uzumaki orphan. Asuma had an innocent look on his face. I didn't even say a word. Why are they looking for me for no reason? However, he wasn't afraid, he was even excited. Humph. It's still too early for you trash ninjas to deal with Master Asuma. Shushi, let's show these bastards our strength. Is he called Garashi? Shinakushina looked at Garashi with concern, her eyes were full of worry. While they were talking, several cloud ninjas had already rushed up to him. In their opinion, how powerful can these 2 kids be? They just need to be careful of the previous genjutsu. On the other side, Garashi also tacitly cooperated with each other to take action. Garashi's hands quickly formed hand seals. Asuma threw shurikens like stars in the sky. Why are there so many shurikens? Damn, this kid is too rich. The Yunin ninjas were also depressed, although the opponent's throwing technique is very immature, but the strength is not low. With their strength, they can't ignore it. Ding ding, in a series of metal collision sound, the shurikens quickly fell to the ground, but this is enough. Genjutsu, Fox's mind jutsu. Well? Where is he? The leader of the ninjas suddenly realized that a cliff appeared in front of him, and he was so scared that he stopped immediately. But at this moment, the instincts of many years of ninja training made him alert. Genjutsu, dispel. After forcefully disrupting the flow of chakra in his body, the leader of the ninjas finally woke up. Then, he felt a hot wind blowing in his face. The leader of the ninjas took a closer look and saw a huge fireball burning towards him. F***CK. The leader of the ninjas didn't have time to curse and quickly rolled to the side. Pfft. After spitting out a mouthful of grass seeds, the leader of the ninjas looked at the scorched marks on the ground in a daze. Isn't the Grand Fireball Jutsu a Chunin level ninjutsu? How can a 6 or 7-year-old kid use it so skillfully? Is there any justice in this world? No, there is also the level C Genjutsu, Fox's mind jutsu. The leader of the ninjas looked at his companions who were running around like headless flies, and cursed again in his heart. The other kid is a monster among monsters. He even used a group genjutsu. If Woodleaf is such a monster, how did Yunin survive for so many years before losing the war? Even Shina Kushina was secretly shocked. The brother that she unilaterally recognized was a little too strong. At least, when she was Garashi's age, she definitely didn't have such strength. P.S. Why don't you kill the enemies first? The first reason is that unless you kill all the enemies in an instant, the hostage will still be in danger. The second reason is that Garashi is here to increase his favorability, and the first thing is to let the other party feel that Garashi values her. Chapter 45. This guy actually woke up at the last moment. Asuma smacked his lips with a look of regret. Then let's get rid of the others first. Garashi took out a shuriken from his tool bag. I'll take care of the left side. Then I'll take care of the right side. The leader's eyebrows twitched and he shouted, "Wake up." If he couldn't disrupt the flow of chakra in his body, his companions could help him. But the problem was, he could only save one person at a time. Therefore, he could only hope that his voice could create the effect of restraining. However, it didn't work at all. A vacuum jade flew to the left, and a shuriken shot to the right. The leader gritted his teeth and tried to use his shuriken to knock down the shuriken shot by the opponent, while he ran to the left to knock away his companion before the vacuum jade hit him. Phew, luckily I made it in time. But before he could catch his breath, Garashi and Asuma began a new round of attacks. Ah! Damn brats, just you wait. No way, again? Are you pigs? Wake up now. After going back and forth 3 times, no matter how slow he was, he realized that something was wrong. Every time he attacked, the opponent seemed to leave a gap just right, staggered the time slightly, so that he could still save his companion. No, these 2 brats are doing it on purpose. The leader felt a chill in his heart. These 2 brats deliberately left him a gap, so that he would be exhausted and defeated easily because of exhaustion. Shina Kushina was also surprised. It's been so long and no one has woken up. Normal fox mind jutsu absolutely can't have this effect. My brother seems to be really powerful. Seeing the 2 brats start another round of attack, the leader of the ninja roared and rushed up with bloodshot eyes. Damn brats, I want you to die. Being forced to give up his companion by 2 brats made him feel ashamed and angry at the same time. Oh, no, it seems that we pushed him too far. Although Asuma said that, there was no fear in his voice. Instead, it was full of excitement. A Chunin-level opponent, I wonder how strong he will be. Asuma was looking forward to it, but suddenly the opponent's hands burst out a dazzling purple lightning. Lightning release, wolf pack kill. The lightning turned into a pack of hungry wolves, opening their bloody mouth toward Asma. So fast. Asma was surprised. The speed of the opponent's lightning release seemed to be much faster than what he had seen in the village. As expected of a ninja from Yunnan. Asma quickly made a hand seal and spat out a ball of fire from his mouth toward the wolf pack. Lightning and fire clashed, and a dazzling light suddenly blossomed in the forest at night. In the aftermath of the explosion, the leader of the ninja violently broke through the lightning and fire barrier and rushed toward Asma. Seeing the enemy rushing toward him, Asma's pupils violently shrank. Obviously, he didn't expect the enemy to be so fierce, but thanks to the many battles he had with Garashi, he was no stranger to this kind of violent attack. With a substitution jutsu, he dodged in time. The Yunnan ninja who had entered a berserk state was naturally not satisfied with this result. He kicked the tree in front of him and used the recoil force to rush toward Asma again. "I say, haven't you forgotten something? Yamanashi." Garashi's voice appeared at the right time, and he punched the Yunnan ninja who was in midair. Boom! Like a cannonball, the Yunnan ninja was fiercely hit and flew out, plowing a long gully in the ground. Sure enough, Garashi is more ferocious. Asma muttered, and then asked, "This guy won't be killed directly, right?" On the side, Shina Kushina also nodded with relief. As expected of her one-sided brother, under his kind heart, there was also a violent power like her. Phew, what kind of monsters are these? In the smoke, the Yunnan ninja's horrified voice came out. At this moment, he was looking at the fragments in his chest with a frightened face. If it weren't for the heart protection mirror, he would have been directly blown up this time. No, even with the heart protection mirror as a buffer, he was almost shocked to death by the transmitted power. However, I won't give you another chance. I will let you know that a chunin like you can't even deal with a genin. But you were almost killed by us. That's because I was careless. But you were almost killed by us. Bastard, bastard, bastard. The leader of the ninja roared and rushed straight to Asma. However, Asma just quickly formed hand seals with his hands, and he didn't even have the slightest intention to dodge. Seeing this situation, the leader of the ninja subconsciously thought of a certain possibility, but before he could react, the familiar throbbing appeared again. Genjutsu again, break it for me. The leader of the ninja knew that he couldn't delay, and he barely controlled his left hand, and the shuriken hidden in the palm of his hand in advance pierced into his flesh. Intense pain came, and he finally broke free from the illusion. Then, a turbulent heat wave came. With the experience of the last time, the leader of the ninja hurriedly rolled away, but half of his body was still wrapped in flames. Damn it, I was forced to this extent. The leader of the ninja held his left hand and looked at Garashi with eyes wide open. He really couldn't imagine that as a chunin, he couldn't even deal with 2 kids. If it was just one person, it wouldn't be so difficult for him, but the cooperation of the 2 kids was too good, and he couldn't wake up any of his stupid teammates. Garashi's face was expressionless, but in his heart, he sighed, as expected of the fire release, it can't even burn people to death. No, if we don't get rid of that kid who used genjutsu, this battle can't continue. Thinking of this, the leader of the ninja gritted his teeth and rushed to Asma again. Asma and Garashi didn't suspect anything, and subconsciously began to form hand seals. 3, 2, 1, it's coming. Yunnan's eyes flashed, and she actually predicted the time of Garashi's genjutsu in advance, and the moment before she was confused by the illusion, she didn't hesitate to explode the smoke bomb in her hand. Damn it, I can't see the enemy's position. Asma thought to himself, but he had already completed the hand seals, and he could only rely on his luck. The huge fireball moved forward and finally rushed into the smoke. Accompanied by the roar of the explosion, dust and smoke covered half of the battlefield. Just when Asma was carefully guarding against the enemy's movement, suddenly, a black figure rushed out of the smoke, and it was so black that it almost blended in with the night. And his target was Uzumaki Shinakushina. Bastard, stop. Asma saw this, and subconsciously grabbed a shuriken and threw it at the enemy. Damn it, I don't have time to form hand seals. Garashi pretended to panic and shouted, but in his heart, he was speechless. The idiot opposite didn't forget to look at him from the corner of his eyes. Was he afraid that he didn't know his intention? Being deceived by such a clumsy performance, it's really insulting to my intelligence, but it can also be explained by being careless because of concern. Thinking of this, Garashi took the initiative to send himself forward. Chapter 46. Seeing Garashi rushing to stop him, the leader was overjoyed. Hey, so what if you're a genius? You're still an inexperienced rookie. I can easily fool you with a trick. In front of him, Shinakushina was stunned in place, and her face showed a painful expression. Apparently, the big dog in her body wanted to take the opportunity to break the seal. You want my power, don't you? As long as a little. No, as long as you let go of the restraint on yourself, with your strength, it's not difficult to defeat them. No, no. Why do you resist your own heart? You obviously hate those who bully and humiliate you. I don't like them, but I hate myself even more when I release the devil. Moreover, there are not only those annoying people in the village. The leader didn't know why the little girl in front of him didn't escape, but he didn't want to know. After all, his fish had already taken the bait. Get out of my way. Aha! I've been waiting for you. At the moment when the leader was about to punch Shinakushina, he suddenly turned his direction, and the thunder on his right fist swallowed Garashi, who couldn't avoid it. There was a loud boom. Shushi was flung away, and the blood he spat out formed a chain of sparkling red beads in the air. Garashi! Asuma shouted in pain, and rushed to the enemy with bloodshot eyes. Bastard, I must kill you. Ahahaha. Don't talk big, with your unkillable fire style. The leader of the ninja laughed heartily. Shinakushina, who was struggling in pain, was awakened by the harsh laughter, and then found that her face was stained with some warm blood. This is Garashi's blood? To protect me? In the depths of her eyes, a black fog quietly emerged. On the other side, Asuma had lost his mind, and even forgot to use ninjutsu, and rushed to the enemy with kunai. Huh? The son of Naruto is only at this level? The leader of the ninjas easily grabbed Asuma's wrist and sneered. In consideration of Asuma's identity, he did not dare to go overboard. At this time, Asuma also calmed down from his impulsive behavior. He widened his eyes and looked behind the other party in disbelief. Heh. Are you trying to say that there's an enemy behind me? Idiot, this kind of trick I used more than 10 years ago. Just as the leader of the ninja was sneering, a voice that seemed to come from the underworld faintly sounded behind him. I'm going to kill you, bastard. The leader looked back stiffly and saw a monster surrounded by blood mist staring at him. The strange and ominous chakra seemed to be able to awaken the deepest fear in a human's heart. Ah! The Flying Ape Clan's encampment. Sandaime Naruto, who was critically looking at the content of the crystal ball, suddenly stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the scarlet blood mist in the distance. His eyes were full of worry and heaviness. What the hell is going on? Why did the Kyuubi's chakra erupt in that direction? Thinking of this, he quickly walked back to the table. With a wave of his right hand, the image on the crystal ball began to change. The next moment, Shinakushina appeared in front of him, and at the same time, Yunin Ninja, who was paralyzed on the ground in fear, appeared. Damn it! These Yunin are actually... Sandaime said angrily, and then suddenly his eyes widened, because he saw Asuma's figure in the corner of the crystal ball. Wait, what the hell is going on? Root, in the underground dark room. The ninja wearing the rock Cripsis forehead protector looked at the old man in front of him in horror. What are you doing? No, don't come over. Don't struggle, let this old man give you an injection. What is this? Poison? Oh. Isn't this the reason why Inoki asked you to sneak into Woodleaf? Listening to what he said, even if he was imprisoned, the rock Cripsis spy couldn't help but show a look of desire. This is the first Naruto's. Danzo took advantage of this opportunity to insert the needle. Ah. The rock Crypsis spy screamed in pain, and in an instant, his body was swallowed by the trees. Another material is missing. Danzo frowned, but the next moment, he hurriedly jumped to the ground. This evil and ominous chakra fluctuation. It's the Kyubi. Seeing this scene, Danzo's eyes almost rippled with anger. Letting the Kyubi break the seal is a major dereliction of duty, Hiruzen. You are too incompetent as the Hokage. At the same time, at the border of Woodleaf, Garashi climbed up from the pit in the distance, looking at the scene in front of him. The corner of his eyes twitched. Did he accidentally go too far? I thought that as a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, she should be able to easily perceive my situation. Garashi sighed. But fortunately, if she came out with her tail, it would be really difficult to end the situation, but this situation is not too bad. Thinking of this, Garashi struggled to climb out of the pit. Oniai-san, please stop, I'm fine. Shina Kushina, who was in a berserk state, calmed down after hearing Garashi's voice, and the blood mist on her body began to dissipate. In the distance, Asma, who seemed to be scared silly, heard Garashi's voice and finally recovered. Garashi, it's great that you're okay. As for Yunan's ninja, he couldn't hear Garashi's voice. He was scared to death by the Kyubi's chakra. This level is far from enough. Garashi frowned slightly. He naturally didn't care about Yunan's group, but he found that the blood mist on Shinakushina's body dissipated to a certain extent and then stabilized. At this time, Asma also trotted all the way and whispered in Garashi's ear, Garashi, what happened to Oniai-san? Maybe it's the tailed beast mentioned in the book. Oniai-san, is she a Jinchuriki? So pitiful. Garashi shook his head slightly and shouted shamefully, Kind Oniai-san, you must hold on. You are so kind and brave, you must not lose to the devil in your heart. Like a real mouth cannon, every time Garashi shouted, the blood mist on Shinakushina's body dissipated. Sure enough, it's too shameful. Garashi took a deep breath and looked to the side. Asma, come with me and cheer for Oniai-san. Asma, who was watching the show from the side, was stunned and pointed at himself blankly. It's very happy to see others shouting, but it's too shameful when it's him. But seeing Garashi's determined eyes, Asma had to agree. Then, his face turned green and he said, Oniai-san, your form is really ugly. Quickly change back. As soon as his voice fell, the blood mist on Shinakushina's body rose. Seeing this, Garashi helplessly patted Asma's shoulder. Forget it, you'd better not say it. If you continue, you'll get beaten up. Chapter 47. Just as Garashi's mouth was dry from shouting, someone jumped down from the tree in a handsome posture. Seeing Shinakushina's strange expression, and Garashi's shameful words, Minato hurriedly asked. Shinakushina, what happened to you? Also, what happened to you? Nya-san was attacked by the monster sealed in her body. Garashi replied, and then asked, Nya-san, are you Nya-san's friend? Friend? It should be possible, probably, maybe. Minato seemed a little shy. Although he had been secretly paying attention to Shinakushina, she was very resistant to everything in the outside world, so the two of them didn't actually talk much. That's great. Garashi cheered. Nya-san is now relying on her own perseverance to fight the monster. Nya-san, hurry up and say something to make Nya-san happy and confident. It's best if you can remind Nya-san of your bond. Is that so? Hearing Shinakushina's situation was so critical, Minato didn't care about anything else, and said the words buried in his heart for a long time. Because of your beautiful red hair, I noticed you when you first came to school. At that time, you were laughed at because of your red hair, and I was so angry that I wanted to stand up and help you. However, you didn't cry when you were bullied, but bravely fought back. From that time on, I knew that you were very strong, both in strength and spirit. I like Shinakushina from the bottom of my heart. Also, today is actually the day you came to school. I didn't have the courage to ask about your birthday, so I kept this day in my heart. I was going to invite you out on a date, but I accidentally found out that you were taken away, and I don't want to lose you. Garashi's mouth twitched slightly. What is this? Is this some kind of romantic talk? Sure enough, Namikaze Minato has his own unique insights when it comes to language. However, when Minato said these words, the ominous red mist that wrapped Shinakushina's body quickly dissipated. In just a few breaths, Shinakushina returned to her original form, and then her body softened, and she fell into Minato's arms. Asuma was dumbfounded. This is the world of the strong? The next day, Naruto's building. Hiruzen, you should already know what happened yesterday, right? Of course, they're all good kids. Don't play dumb. Danzo sneered, breaking the Kyuubi's seal. Do you think you can just forget it? Hee, take a look at this. Sandaime didn't get angry. He took out his smoking gun and pushed a document over. Danzo coldly snorted and took the document, his eyes almost popped. It was written in the document that the crisis was caused by his indulgence of the Cloud Hidden Army spies. Seeing this, he finally remembered that because of the material, he planned to catch a few more spies, so he didn't pay much attention to them. Moreover, he didn't think that a group of genin could carry out a secret mission. Who would have thought that the Yunin spies would hit the jackpot? Ahem. Danzo calmly pushed the document back. Let's put this aside and talk about the next issue. Mitokado Hamura and Koharu Yutane shook their heads secretly. Danzo really can't beat Hiruzen. Sandaime smiled lightly. Then, let's talk about the rewards for Minato and Shimizu Garashi. Wait a minute. Danzo, who had just calmed down, immediately interrupted. I think it's necessary to bring Minato and Shimizu Garashi back to root for my personal training. Danzo, do you know what you're talking about? Sandaime's gentle face suddenly turned cold. You're too weak, Hiruzen. Danzo said tit for tat, one can make a Jinchuriki go berserk, and the other can make a Jinchuriki calm down. This kind of bond can be the best tool for us to control the Kyuubi. Mito-sama said that if you don't want to be eroded by the Kyuubi's hatred, you must first fill your heart with love. Sandaime's eyelids drooped. Shinakushina has now filled the emptiness in her heart. I won't let you push her into the abyss. Stupid, a ninja is a tool, and as for a Jinchuriki, they're nothing more than vessels. Danzo said firmly, in short, Minato and Shimizu Garashi, I must, boom. The door was violently pushed open, and debris splashed everywhere. The umbu hidden in the surroundings instantly jumped out, but after seeing who it was, they consciously retreated. They confirmed that it was someone they couldn't afford to offend. Seeing the two coming towards him, Danzo's eyes were gloomy. Jiraiya, Tsunade, what do you two want? But before he could finish, Tsunade raised her fist and slammed it. Boom! The place where Danzo was standing was directly hit, and even the entire Naruto building trembled. The next moment, Danzo came back from the dark corner, and his face was not only gloomy, but also furious. You two bastards, do you want to betray the village? Tsunade's face was cold, and she said domineeringly, I came here today to say one thing. If you dare to touch my disciple, don't blame me for killing you. Jiraiya laughed, my disciple is the same. Danzo's face was gloomy. Forward leaf, a little sacrifice is worth it, boom. Another stand-in was directly hit by Tsunade. I'm not here to listen to your nonsense. Tsunade put her hand on the table. In short, I don't care if it was your root who did it, but as long as my disciples are in danger in the village, I will blame it all on root. Every time they are attacked, I will kill one person. This time, even the two consultants who were watching the show stood up. Tsunade, do you know what you are talking about? No matter what, Root's ninjas are your companions in Woodleaf. Jiraiya was secretly speechless. Tsunade is as irritable as ever. Companions? Tsunade sneered, do you think those people really understand the meaning of companions? Enough. Danzo came out from the corner again. Do you really think I don't dare to label you as a traitor? As you wish. Tsunade waved her hand casually. If I didn't want to wait for Shizun to graduate, I would have taken her away from Woodleaf. Tsunade, don't be impulsive. Danzo, you also calm down. The two Hokage consultants quickly stood up to smooth things over. Not to mention Tsunade's symbolic identity, her strategic level of medical skills made them not dare to act recklessly. However, Tsunade didn't buy it. "I'm not here to discuss with you today, I'm just here to tell you the truth. As for whether you want to believe it or not, it's not something I need to consider." After saying that, she walked out swiftly and decisively. Jiraiya on the side was stunned for a moment. He came here today, didn't he just say one sentence? Shaking his head, he left behind a sentence and followed after her. "I advise you, don't provoke a crazy woman, an angry sage is the same." Chapter 48. The atmosphere in the conference room was very oppressive. After a long time, Danzo angrily complained. "Sarutobi, look at your good disciple." Sandaime nodded slightly and smiled. "Yes, my good disciple." Hearing Sarutobi's understatement, Danzo was so angry that his facial features were about to be dislocated. You, Sandaime no longer looked at him and turned to invite them. "The sun is very warm today, let's go out and exercise." Mitokado and Koharu nodded and followed him out. Soon, only Danzo was left in the conference room. "Hiruzen, you will regret this." At the same time, Jiraiya, who followed Tsunade, asked. "Tsunade, you don't really want to leave Woodleaf, do you?" "Maybe, after all." Tsunade sighed. "This village was built by Grandpa, there's nothing to be nostalgic about." Jiraiya winked. "How can there be no nostalgia? Don't you still have me and Sensei?" "Oh, you want to peek at others taking a bath?" Tsunade looked at him contemptuously, then her expression became complicated. "As for Sensei, why did we happen to appear here, don't you know?" Jiraiya was silent for a moment, then laughed. "Don't say that, Sensei is doing this for Minato and your disciple." Tsunade's expression was cold. "So, you use us as a tool to balance the situation?" Jiraiya opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. "Forget it, there are some things I don't want to get to the bottom of. Perhaps, not knowing anything is also a kind of happiness." Seeing the atmosphere suddenly heavy, Jiraiya changed the topic. "By the way, you just said that you want to take Shizen away from Woodleaf. You said it deliberately for Danzo to hear, right?" Tsunade's eyes were dignified. "If I didn't say that, do you think he would stop? Don't forget, he's not the kind of person who cares about the lives of his subordinates." Jiraiya nodded and asked again. "But, after Shizen graduates, what about your disciple? According to the normal graduation process, there are only 3 or 4 years left." 3 or 4 years is enough." Jiraiya had a strange look on his face. "Are you trying to tell me that a 10-year-old child has the strength to fight against Danzo? You don't understand. He's different from us. In him, I seem to see the same light as my grandfather. The kind of light that can make the people around him follow him and be willing to fight for his ideals." Tsunade said, "No matter how crazy Danzo is, he can't fight against the entire village." Jiraiya rubbed his chin, his eyes full of surprise. How could a violent woman like Tsunade give such a high evaluation? Is it Shimizu Garashi? I'm starting to get curious. 432, inside the ward, a count was accompanied by heavy breathing. "Garashi, why did you get out of bed? You're a patient now, you should have a good rest." Asuma saw Garashi doing push-ups as soon as he entered the room and hurriedly stepped forward to pull him up. "Don't worry, I'm a medical ninja myself. No one knows my physical condition better than me." Garashi stood up with a smile. "But, what happened to your eyes?" Garashi noticed that Asuma's eyes seemed to be a bit too dark. "Huh." Asuma avoided his eyes and said, "By the way, Garashi, I'll peel fruit for you." "Hey! He was beaten by us." "That's right, how dare you take Garashi to do such a dangerous thing?" Behind Asuma, Shizun and Kurenai walked in angrily. No wonder Asuma came in so quickly. It turned out that he was afraid of being beaten. Garashi laughed and patted Asuma's shoulder embarrassedly. "Sorry, I made you." However, Asuma was extremely emotional and said with red eyes, "No, they did the right thing. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be injured. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry inside. As the culprit, he wanted to apologize but couldn't. After reprimanding Asuma, Silent Sound and the other two quickly surrounded him and inquired about his well-being from both sides. Garashi, do you feel any discomfort in your body now? Garashi, do you want to eat now? I made lunch for you. When Shizen and Kurenai's eyes met, there seemed to be sparks flashing, but when they looked away, both of them looked around tacitly. Garashi, let me clean the room for you. Then I'll make the bed. After looking for a while, Asuma thought with a strange expression, although the big brother last night was also very powerful, compared to Garashi, he seems to be far behind. Asuma, why are you still here? Yeah, didn't you have to go to the toilet? When did I say I was going to? Asuma pointed at himself blankly at first, but after meeting four murderous eyes, he instantly woke up and covered his stomach with his small hand. Ouch, my stomach suddenly feels uncomfortable. With that, he hurriedly rushed outside. Ouch, who is it? Asuma just rushed to the door and bumped into a soft body. You're really lively, little Asuma, completely different from Yuan Fei Sensei's stability. Asuma looked up and shouted excitedly. Orochimaru Sama. Hearing his shout, several people in the room also excitedly greeted him. Different from the dark image of the future, the current Orochimaru is more feminine and handsome. Moreover, Orochimaru, as a genius of the first generation of civilians who was discovered by the Sandaime and made great contributions in the Second Shinobi World War, his popularity in Konoha is quite high. In many people's eyes, he is the future Sandaime Naruto. Orochimaru smiled softly. Aren't you going to invite me in? Garashi said shyly, I was too excited, it's really rude. Orochimaru slowly walked in and secretly looked at the other side. Is it him who made Tsunade's dead heart come back to life? Garashi collected his thoughts, looked at Orochimaru expectantly and asked, Orochimaru, Sama, are you here today because of what happened last night? Hearing Garashi's question, Asuma also looked forward to it. Orochimaru, Sama, is the village going to reward us? As the top second generation, he doesn't care about rewards, but he quite enjoys the honor and recognition. Orochimaru's eyes were gentle. Of course, you foiled Yunan's plot and protected the companions in the village. Especially you, Garashi-kun, if you didn't restrain that little girl's impulse, I can't imagine what would have happened now. Chapter 49. Garashi was happy at first, and was about to speak, but he seemed to remember something, and hurriedly said, Orochimaru, Sama, in fact, the person who stopped the big sister last night was not me. The first thing you did after receiving the reward is to think about someone else. No wonder Sarutobi-sensei is so optimistic about you. Orochimaru laughed. Don't worry, I've already visited Minato in advance. Garashi breathed a sigh of relief, and whispered to himself, is that big brother called Minato? Orochimaru continued, originally, with your merits, it should be recorded as an S-level mission, but for some special reasons, your merits can't be publicized, and can't even be recorded. Asuma, who was looking forward to being in the limelight in front of his classmates, suddenly withered, and whispered, how can this be? Garashi's expression was as usual, without the slightest change. Seeing this situation, Orochimaru's evaluation of him in his heart increased slightly. As compensation, the village has decided to reward you with any ninjutsu of your choice. Asuma excitedly asked, even profound ninjutsu? In fact, the village doesn't encourage you to practice ninjutsu in advance, but... Orochimaru's eyes slightly narrowed, geniuses are not included. That's great. Asuma cheered, but after thinking about Garashi's performance, he lost his confidence. Even ordinary geniuses? Seeing Asuma's worried look, Orochimaru touched his head and said, sorry, Sarutobi-sensei thinks that your role in this operation is too small, so he specifically proposed to limit your reward to ninjutsu of A level and below. Hey, I don't care. Asuma curled his lips. In fact, he didn't think that this was unreasonable. After all, even he himself didn't feel that he had made any contribution. But he was still very unhappy. Choose any ninjutsu? Garashi thought to himself, in my plan, the first order is the 8 inner hidden gates and spiritualization. However, Hashiman Tonku is only an A-level ninjutsu. It's not worth it to use this opportunity to exchange for it. The most important thing is that I have already thought about how to get it for free. As for the spiritualization technique, it doesn't mean much for me to learn it now. After all, my goal to realize the value of this technique hasn't appeared yet. Thinking of this, Garashi asked, Orochimaru-sama, can you tell me which jutsu Minato-sen chose? It's a space-time ninjutsu that was developed by Naidame Naruto and is very rare in the entire shinobi world, Flying Thunder God Jutsu. As expected. Garashi nodded to himself. At first, he didn't want to exchange for the Flying Thunder God technique, mainly because he wasn't sure if he had the talent in this area. If he wasted this opportunity, it would only affect his progress in improving his strength. But now, there was an opportunity to choose any ninjutsu, so naturally, Garashi was excited. The most important thing is that Minato is also starting from scratch. So, he can totally rub off on his experience and insights. Thinking of this, Garashi no longer hesitated. Orochimaru-sama, then I will also choose the Flying Thunder God technique. Orochimaru's vertical pupils flashed with a hint of surprise. Are you sure? Garashi-sama, the Flying Thunder God technique is one of the most difficult ninjutsu to practice. I just think that it would be easier for 2 people to talk to each other rather than one person practicing alone. Shushi naturally referred to their freeloading as mutual improvement. Orochimaru didn't know about this and thought that Garashi wanted to help Minato. He couldn't help but sigh, no wonder Tsunade cheered up because of you, so gentle. A few days later, on the hospital field. Garashi controlled his own pace and slowly ran. At this time, he heard a whoosh sound. A green whirlwind whizzed past Shushi like a phantom. Thick eyebrows, stop. I'm asking you to do rehabilitation exercises, not suicide exercises. 2 figures followed behind the green phantom, panting as they shouted. However, the whirlwind running figure showed no signs of stopping. No, my lungs are going to fall out. Damn, is that kid really a patient? Yumiko-ne-san, Misa-ne-san. Hearing this familiar voice, the 2 young nurses who were chasing the green whirlwind finally stopped. Garashi, you came just in time. Hurry up, help us stop him. That kid was originally in the hospital because of muscle strain. Does he not want his legs anymore? Hearing the complaints of the 2, Garashi chuckled. Yumiko-ne-san, Misa-ne-san, leave this to me. I happen to know the student over there. He's a freshman this year. Can you really do that? Yumiko and Yumiko looked at each other and decided to believe in Shushi's ability. Shushi, we'll leave it to you. We have to go back and check the rooms now. After that, the 2 limped away, supporting each other. Mekkai-san, do you want to compete? Standing on the edge of the field, Garashi smiled and threw the bait. Competition. The green whirlwind's eyes lit up as it stopped in front of Shushi. It then asked excitedly, Senior Shushi, you know me? As he spoke, he continued to run on the same spot without stopping to rest. Of course, you forced me, the president of the Psychology Society, to join your Vitality Society. Garashi smiled helplessly. How could I forget? It's the youthful hot-blooded Vitality Society. Mekkai first solemnly corrected, and then asked suspiciously, Garashi-san, why are you in the hospital? Were you also beaten up? Also? Garashi's eyes twitched slightly, and he coughed. This is the injury from the battle with the Yunin spy a few nights ago. Although he couldn't disclose the matter of Shinakushina, he could still talk about the spy incident. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to explain the injury on his body. He couldn't really blame everything on Danzo. Sure enough, you were beaten up. But... Mekkai subconsciously said, enviously, catching the spy. That's really amazing. Garashi's mouth twitched slightly. Why does this sound a bit wrong? Then I'm different. The students I tricked into joining the club said they wanted to beat me, but they couldn't catch up with me. Metke proudly puffed out his chest. I ran 20 streets in one breath, and no one could hit me until I pulled my muscles. So, senpai, your body is not good. Do you want to join the club and train with me? Chapter 50. In this regard, Garashi not only didn't get angry, but also nodded in agreement. You're right, I'm indeed too weak. If it wasn't for me, that knight wouldn't have, in the early days, in order to be apprenticed to Tsunade, he said that he would become the greatest medical ninja. While it was a bonus for being apprenticed to Tsunade, it also naturally restricted his legitimacy to learn other jutsu. Learning genjutsu can be said to be better treatment of patients. Learning monstrous strength can be said to be following the guidance of a teacher. Then, what about learning Hashiman Tanku? Although few people would think so much, but when he stands at a high position in the future. At that time, everything he does, every decision he makes, will be repeatedly studied under a magnifying glass. Although this kind of thing won't have too much impact, for Garashi who pursues perfection, any flaw is very eyesore. So, I have to find a logical reason for myself in advance. Garashi sighed in his heart, looking at the tool in front of him with bright eyes. Metke didn't hear Garashi's vague reference, but he didn't care. He just said excitedly, Garashi-senpai, let's sweat our youth together. As long as you exercise with me, I guarantee that no one can beat you in the future. Garashi felt a strange feeling in his heart. As a master of deception, it was the first time he was deceived. Moreover, it was for such an inexplicable reason. However, looking at Metkai's back, Garashi's expression became strange. You're working so hard to do rehabilitation exercises. Is it just to be discharged from the hospital quickly, so as not to be blocked by your classmates in the hospital? Sure enough, you're worthy of being a senpai, as smart as me. Metke gave Garashi a thumbs up, the corner of his mouth raised a shining bright smile. By the way, senpai, what are we going to compete in? Garashi looked at him sympathetically, and said in a heavy tone, let's talk about the competition after you've rested. Metke grinned, no problem, I've already rested. I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about after you've been beaten up. What do you mean? At this moment, a sinister laugh came from behind Metke. In order to prevent us from leaving the club, they posted our information all over the school. He even tricked us into getting such a stupid hairstyle, causing us to be laughed at. Because of you, I've already lost my right to choose a partner in school. Wait, with your appearance that affects the village's appearance, it seems like you don't have the right to choose a spouse, right? I don't care. Brothers, beat him up. Metke knew something was wrong and immediately prepared to flee. However, the others were already prepared for this. They immediately pressed down on Metke. Then, a certain someone's crisp moan resounded throughout the hospital. Garashi didn't go up to stop them. As a medical ninja, he can naturally see that Metkai's classmates didn't really hit him. They were just jokingly grabbing his face and rubbing it. After about 20 minutes, Metke stood in front of Garashi again with a swollen face. He said in a muffled voice, Garashi, senpai, I'm ready. Looking at the pig-headed man in front of him, Garashi was amused. At the same time, he formed a seal with both hands and pressed it. Metke, who was baptized by the healing spell, let out a misunderstood moan of harmony. The next moment, he shouted energetically, Garashi, senpai, I'm ready. Let's start the race. Garashi smiled and said, let's set the competition as running. Metke was energized and hurriedly asked, Garashi, senpai, then shall we compete to see who can finish 20 laps around Woodleaf first? Garashi's mouth twitched and he coughed, we're all patients now, so we shouldn't exercise too much. Let's compete to see who can finish 1 lap around the field first. Just 1 lap? Metke scratched his head and was a little disappointed. However, he quickly pulled himself together and shouted, Garashi, senpai, I definitely won't lose to you. Then, let's start. 3, 2, 1, run. As soon as he finished speaking, Metke ran forward as if his life depended on it. Even his facial features were slightly distorted by the wind. This speed is really scary. Garashi sighed in his heart. His gaze sharpened. Looks like I have to be more serious. Although he didn't want to win from the beginning, it wouldn't be good to lose too badly. On the field, 2 gusts of wind raged past. The patients who were strolling slowly were so scared that they trembled all over. The 2 of them ran side by side. One moment, it was Garashi in front, and the next moment, it was Metkei in the first place. The position in front was almost constantly changing. Should I exhaust myself now? Garashi was hesitating when he suddenly realized that Metkei, who was beside him, was emitting an aura that was completely different from before. Dad said that as long as I work hard, even geniuses can be defeated by ordinary people. It's impossible for hard work not to be rewarded. Metkai's eyes flashed with his father's and his daily training, as well as the disdainful ridicule of his father by others. Suddenly, an incomparably huge amount of energy erupted from within his body. With only a quarter of the race left, he completely overtook Garashi. Then, under Garashi's shocked gaze, he rushed past the finish line in a spurt of energy. I won. Metkei was so tired that he directly knelt on the ground. His lungs were burning, and he was almost unable to speak. Yes, you won. Garashi smiled and sat aside without caring about his demeanor. I really didn't expect that my first defeat since entering the school would be to lose to you. So, as punishment for losing the race, let me give you a physical examination every week from now on. Metkei was stunned and stared blankly at Garashi. Garashi smiled slightly, and his voice seemed to have the power to warm people's hearts. Your training method is too extreme, and it will accumulate a lot of internal injuries in your body. These internal injuries are usually not visible, but once they erupt, it will cause your body to collapse. Hearing this, Metkai's eyes were completely moved to tears. Although he was straightforward, he was not stupid. Naturally, he could see that Garashi deliberately proposed such a sure-lose race so that he could receive treatment with dignity. In order to care about his feelings, Garashi did not hesitate to damage his reputation. Don't think too much, I didn't lose to you on purpose. Metkei-san, your perseverance is indeed admirable. Sob, Dad was right, I can already feel the heat of youth. Garashi-san, I will never let you down. Garashi smiled gently. As a medical ninja, if there was a suitable template for reference, he could absorb the other party's experience at the fastest speed. After all, he was destined not to spend too much time on the Hashimentanku. If he wanted to continue to improve, the best way was to find a tool to farm experience. It can be said that after Metkei learned the Hashimentanku, the data obtained from the treatment of Metkei would be his greatest gain. Medical ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, spacetime ninjutsu, immortal technique. I finally understand how Orochimaru felt. There are too many wonderful techniques in this world waiting for me to learn. Time is really too short. Fortunately, I have a lot of excellent tools. Chapter 51. Garashi was very happy to have successfully harvested a tool. In the next few days, Garashi performed several examinations and treatments on Metkai's body. What an amazing physical strength. Garashi grabbed Metkai's arm and carefully examined it. He was amazed and doubtful at the same time. With your strength, you shouldn't lose to an ordinary 4th grade student. But why did I hear from Shunian that you were lying down on the first day of school? Actually, I don't know how to fight. Metkei scratched his head and laughed. Suddenly, his expression became gloomy, and, Dad doesn't let me fight with others. Garashi treated him and asked, why? Is he worried that you'll be hurt by others? Metkei shook his head and whispered, no, he's just afraid of causing trouble. He's a genin, no one can beat him. Yes, he can only be beaten to death. Garashi found it funny and then asked softly, actually, you respect him a lot, don't you? During the last competition, I heard you talking to yourself. To be able to make you burst out with such a strong belief, it means that you really want to prove him to others. Metkei hesitated for a moment and nodded heavily, although Dad is a genin that no one can beat, in my heart, he will always be the strongest. That's why I want to protect the youth that Dad talked about. Garashi withdrew his hands and finished the examination. So, shall we start today's youth training? Metkei shouted passionately. Of course, youth starts every morning. Well said, as expected of my son. At the door, a man with the same thick eyebrows as Mike K shouted. Dad. Son. The two suddenly hugged each other passionately. They were so moved that they cried. Looking at the sudden change in the style of the father and son, Garashi quietly stood a little further away. It's too infectious, it's not good to be infected. After being touched by his own feelings, Dai finally noticed Soseki next to him. Kai, is this your classmate? Dad, this is Senior Garashi. He's super powerful. He's the most powerful genius in our school. Kai, I'm so proud of you for being able to make such excellent friends when you just entered the school. As they spoke, the father and son hugged each other and cried bitterly. Garashi quietly waited at the side. Although Metkai's style was a little strange, it had to be said that his father's support and encouragement was inseparable from Metkai's unswerving determination in the future. In the middle of his sobbing, Dai gave Shushi a thumbs up. I'm Dai. Thank you for taking care of Guy. Shushi smiled and said, Senior Dai, actually, Kai, did you hear that? Such an outstanding classmate is calling me senior. Daddy, my youth is starting to burn. Daddy, let us burn together. Seeing the father and son hugging each other and crying bitterly again, even Garashi was a little helpless. He finally understood why Dai's strength was never displayed. Most likely, there was no team that could stand his character. Without a team, Dai naturally couldn't accept a difficult mission. Without a difficult mission, Dai naturally didn't have a platform to display his strength. Seeing the two finally tired from crying, Garashi quickly said, Actually, I should be thanking Metkei. He beat me in running and made me deeply aware of the importance of faith. After saying that, Garashi immediately shut up. Because, he knew that a mountain flood was coming. Sure enough, the next moment, Dai choked with sobs and hugged Kai tightly in his arms. He was so moved that he shouted loudly. Kai, you finally did it. As long as you work hard, you will be rewarded. However, Metkei was a little embarrassed. No, Dad, if it wasn't for the running competition, I wouldn't have been able to beat Senior Garashi. Bang! As soon as his voice fell, Dai changed from a hug to a shoulder throw and threw Kai heavily to the ground. Kai, never deny your own efforts. Dad, but if you don't believe in yourself, then your efforts are worthless. Dad, I know. I won't deny my own efforts anymore. After witnessing the domestic violence, Garashi said in a timely manner, Metkei really worked hard. His training that exceeded his limits even left internal injuries in his body. What? Kai, are you okay? Hearing this, Dai panicked and touched Kai's body. I'm fine. Senior has already examined me. Speaking up to this point, Metkei finally reacted. He hurriedly looked at Garashi. Senior, please also examine my dad. He works even harder than me. Another fish took the bait. Garashi gathered his thoughts and looked at Dai with a dignified gaze. Senior Dai, let me examine you too. Metkei introduced from the side. Garashi-senpai is Tsunade-sama's disciple. His medical skills are super amazing. What? Tsunade-sama's disciple. Dai was shocked. For a 10,000-year-old genin like him, Sannin is definitely an unattainable figure. Seeing that Dai was about to hug Kai again and encourage him to make an excellent friend, Garashi quickly pulled his hand over. He began the examination. Seeing Garashi fall into silence, with a trace of shock between his eyebrows, Metkei couldn't hold back his anxiety and asked, Senior, how is my dad? Very bad. He has accumulated too many internal injuries. Garashi shook his head. Then what should we do? Metkei asked anxiously. Don't worry too much. As long as Dai-senpai can recuperate here for a while, he will be fine. But, is it my illusion? Garashi's eyes showed a trace of doubt. Why do I feel that Dai-senpai's body contains a terrible energy no less than Tsunade-senpai's? What? Senpai, you must be joking, right? Mekkei scratched his head. My dad is just a genin. However, Dai nodded with appreciation. You are indeed Tsunade-sama's disciple. You can see my situation at a glance. Mekkei didn't doubt at all. The next moment, he shouted with admiration, Dad, you are amazing. Dai gave a thumbs up. Hard work can't be unrewarded. Kai, you can do it too. After that, the two hugged and cried again. Garashi on the side was very calm. He was beginning to get used to it. After crying, Mekkei wiped the corner of his eyes. But Dad, since you are so strong, why are you still a genin? Because of self-restraint. Mato Dai said solemnly, Dad's strength was trained to protect the most precious things. I understand. I will also work hard to protect Dad's youth. Kai. Dad. After saying that, the two of them hugged each other and cried bitterly again. Garashi sighed helplessly. It is said that women are made of water. This father and son, are they made of tears? Chapter 52. After the two finished crying, Garashi asked doubtfully, Senior Dai, where did that power of yours come from? I'm a little worried, that power seems to be too great. Guy was a little worried. His father was just a genin, but he suddenly grasped a power that even Senior Garashi said was terrifying. Could it be that he had performed some taboo ritual? Dai smiled confidently, this is a power that I mastered after 20 years of cultivation, Hashiman Tanku. Guy tilted his head, puzzled, Hashiman Tanku? Garashi was surprised. Hashiman Tanku is a top-level body technique developed by the second Naruto, but it's only A-level, it shouldn't be possible. Hashiman Tanku is indeed impossible, but after I completed the last gate, I opened the Hashiman Tanku array. Dai said, his eyes filled with confidence, it can definitely reach the profound level. Mekkei looked at him in a daze. This was the first time he had seen his father in such high spirits. The Hashiman Tanku was developed by the second Naruto in just a few days, but it took me 20 years to master it. However, doesn't this mean that ordinary people can surpass geniuses by relying on hard work? Dai shouted in high spirits, Guy, you can do it too. Mekkei instantly burst into tears, Dad, I will definitely do it. Half-finished product? Garashi was not affected by the two at all. He just nodded secretly. The last gate of the Hashiman Tanku needs to be verified with one's life. The second Naruto should be aware of this, so he didn't continue to develop it. It's also possible that he developed this ninjutsu to complement the Edo Tensei, but later he discovered that the last gate of the Hashiman Tanku consumes life source. Dead people don't have such things, so he turned his eyes to the mutual multiplication explosive symbol. While Garashi was thinking, Dai put his hands on Guy's shoulders. This technique is something that Dad got as a graduation gift. Mekkei's eyes suddenly lit up. No wonder, with the contribution points that Dad got from completing D-rank missions, even if he completed 1,000 missions, he still wouldn't be able to get an A-rank ninjutsu. Because my father knows that my talent is too poor. Even if it's a B-level ninjutsu, it would be difficult for me to learn, so he chose this one. In the introduction, as long as I work hard, I will definitely be able to learn it. But the progress of this technique is really too slow. My classmates have started to take C-level missions, but I'm still practicing. My classmates have become chunin, but I'm still practicing. I didn't tell you because I was worried that after you chose this technique. Dad, I will definitely succeed in my cultivation. Mekkei suddenly shouted, because I have a father who is better than your father. Mato Dai was stunned, and said tearfully, Kai, then you must be stronger than Daddy. Kai gave him a thumbs up. I'll definitely do it. Just when the two were about to hug each other and cry, Garashi quickly interrupted, Dai-senpai, although I don't know why you're only a genin with your strength, but I can recommend you to Tsunade-senpai. Hearing Garashi's words, Kai suddenly became excited. Great, Dad, you can finally stop doing D-rank missions. However, after a moment of contemplation, Dai slowly shook his head. Dad, why did you, Kai, do you remember what I said when you found out that your talent in ninjutsu and genjutsu is not good? Metke nodded heavily. You said that I'm not good at ninjutsu and genjutsu is actually something to be happy about. Because if you know your shortcomings, you can let your strengths shine. There are two sides to everything. Although a genin is not as good as a jonin, it also means freedom. Dai Chao-kai gave him a thumbs up and grinned. Because I'm a genin, even if I go to the battlefield, no one will care. In that case, I can protect my most precious thing. Metke burst into tears. Dad. Dai, in turn, was influenced by Kai. Son. No wonder he was able to arrive in time in the original work. So he was secretly protecting me from afar? Garashi was shocked and immediately shook his head. It's not just that. A genin also needs to be assigned tasks. Only a genin like him who no one wants can really do this. In this cruel world, he's probably the best father there is. Shushi sighed in his heart. He quietly left the room to give the father and son some time alone. A few days later, in another father's house. Ever since he realized that his calculations were useless, Shinku was too lazy to bring Garashi outside to train. At least this way, Kurenai would be happier. With a sad sigh, Shinku asked, Garashi, how's your training? Garashi shook his head slightly. It's still not good. Don't worry, B-grade genjutsu is already a watershed. Moreover, to be able to learn this level of genjutsu at the age of 6, you've already set Wood Leaf's record. Shinku shook his head with some regret. It's a pity that you spent a year consolidating your foundation. Otherwise, this record could be brought forward by a year. In his view, Garashi was a bit obsessed with the basics. He clearly learned it in 2 months, but he spent a whole year consolidating it. But maybe this is the willfulness of a genius. Thinking about how he spent 2 years learning the basics and was praised by his teacher as a genius in genjutsu, Shinku felt his face become a little hot. Garashi smiled and accepted the praise, but he didn't care. After all, this so-called record of his would soon be broken by someone else. A genius who graduated at the age of 5 and was able to use an A-grade ninjutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. But if I wasn't distracted by medical ninjutsu, I should be able to do it with my talent in genjutsu. Garashi calculated in his heart, but his face was calm. Although I still don't have a clue, I already have some ideas. You've always been very opinionated. If you have an idea, just do it yourself. Shinku was very confident in Garashi. But this time, I have some doubts. I don't know if this is the right thing to do, Garashi said hesitantly. Hearing Shushi's words, True Red Sunset also became serious. When I was training, I realized that when I reached a bottleneck in genjutsu, I would empty my mind and focus on medical ninjutsu, but when I looked back, I found that the bottleneck had already been broken. Is there such a thing? Shinku was confused. Although he was a genius in the normal sense, focusing on genjutsu was already very taxing. He didn't have the energy to do 2 things at the same time like Garashi. Garashi nodded seriously. Didn't the teachers in his previous life also say that when you were tired of doing math, you could do English tests to change your mood? Combining work and rest was very reasonable. So, I've been thinking for the past few days. Ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu. Is it possible to comprehend these fields by analogy? Are 2 fields no longer enough to satisfy you? Shinku Uhura's jaw dropped as he recalled how Shushi had asked him to teach him illusions last year. If that's the case, don't tell me Shushi is the one teaching me now. P.S. Kakashi was able to use Shadow Clone Jutsu when he was in school in episode 639 of the anime. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.